Chapter 371. Little brother, you are indeed smart. Actually, we found a ruin near the middle continent, but only Qi refinement stage cultivators can enter. Are you interested in working with us? The middle-aged cultivator asked. Middle continent ruins? Yunjioga's pupils shrank. He didn't know if this ruin was the same as the one the Lu sisters were talking about. If it was the same mystic realm, then wouldn't they have come here for nothing? Little brother, you've heard of the middle continent ruins? The middle-aged sword cultivator raised his eyebrows. No, I just feel that it's a little strange. Since this ruin is so important, why didn't the cultivators of the Middle Continent Alliance come out to organize it? Instead they sent us rogue cultivators? The Middle Continent was a fat piece of meat that was split between the righteous and evil sections. Naturally, the Middle Continent Alliance also sent people out. However, this ruin is too big. They can't take all of it, so they let us take advantage of it. I still have a few spots here. If you are interested, I can sign a contract with you. You just have to split the loot with me, the middle-aged cultivator said patiently. I'll have to discuss this with my companions, Yunjioga said with a troubled expression. All right, then I'll wait for your good news. The middle-aged sword cultivator left a communication talisman and left. Yunjioga kept the talisman. He didn't want to stay any longer, so he went upstairs and returned to the house. How did this ruin become known to everyone? Yunjioga was very annoyed. We'll know when those two girls come back. Zhou wasn't in a hurry. Yunjioga looked at the time. It wasn't long now. A moment later there was a knock on the door. Who is it? Yunjioga asked. It's me. Lu Mei's voice sounded. Yunjioga opened the door and was instantly shocked. He saw two dark-skinned, pock-marked, squinting eyes, bulbous noses, sausage mouths and skinny women standing at the door. They were so ugly that it would make one nauseous. They were the Lu sisters. However, what surprised Yunjioga the most was the handsome man in black standing behind them. It was actually Wanli Mingxian. How did you guys end up together? Yunjioga cried out. Junior brother Yunjio, you've misunderstood. There's nothing going on between me and junior sister Lu. Wanli Mingxian hurriedly waved his hand. Even though he was an evil cultivator, he still cared about his reputation. Senior brother Wanli doesn't like us small fries. Lu Tianer touched the pockmarks on her face and winked at Wanli Mingxian. The falling flowers yearn for love, but the heartless brook is heartless. Lu Mei pouted. He seemed to be very familiar with Wanli Mingxian. Indeed, a woman's heart was like a needle at the bottom of the sea. Who could have guessed that a dozen or so days ago, the two sisters had looked like they could not wait to kill Wanli Mingxian. Junior sister Lu really likes to joke. Wanli Mingxian displayed a very reserved appearance in the face of the Lu sisters' teasing. Let's talk inside. Yunjioga waved his hand. After the two sisters entered the house, they sat in front of Wanli Mingxian and told him how they met. It turned out that when the two sisters came over, they accidentally provoked a middle-stage foundation establishment cultivator. When they were fleeing for their lives, Wanli Mingxian had saved them. Only then did they travel together. It's all thanks to senior brother Wanli's care. It saved us a lot of trouble. The Lu sisters said with a serious expression. Junior sister Lu is too kind. Wanli Mingxian shook his head. We'll talk about this later. Have you heard about the Middle Continent ruins? Yunjioga told them about how he was recruited downstairs. Then he placed the communication talisman left behind by the middle-aged cultivator on the table and said, there must be something fishy about this. Not long after we arrived at the Middle Continent, we heard that the ruins had already been discovered. The Middle Continent Alliance gathered many foundation establishment cultivators and gave each of them 3 spots. They required at least 3 Qi condensation cultivators to be allowed to enter the secret realm. Senior brother Wanli has already received the token. When the Lu sisters found out about this, they were also dumbfounded. Fortunately, Wanli Mingxian was there. Otherwise, they would have to return empty-handed. 3 years ago, I heard that the Middle Continent ruins would be opened this year. Junior sister Lu's father also received the news at that time. It's very likely that the Middle Continent Alliance had already started making arrangements 3 years ago. Wanli Mingxian also analyzed the situation. Yunjioga's fingers could not help but lightly tap the table. It was very obvious that the news of the ruins had been deliberately released by the Middle Continent Alliance. Why did they need so many foundation establishment cultivators and Qi condensation cultivators? Senior brother Yunjiu, are we still going to stay here? Although the Lu sisters were very close to Wanli Mingxian, they still trusted Yunjioga the most. If Yunjioga said he wanted to leave, they definitely would not stay. What do you think, brother Wanli? Yunjioga looked at Wanli Mingxian. Cultivators like us fight against the heavens and humans. The opportunity is right in front of me, I won't retreat so easily. Wanli Mingxian shook his head. He still owed a huge debt and was just waiting for this opportunity to make a fortune. But that middle-aged cultivator just said that you Foundation establishment cultivators can't enter, Yunjioga said. Listen to his bullshit. Wanli Mingxian had a look of disdain. If Foundation establishment cultivators couldn't enter, why would they be so proactive in helping the Middle Continent Alliance find Qi condensation disciples? Yunjioga pondered for a moment, then looked at Zhishang, who was invisible and sitting beside him. The Lu sisters could not help but look over as well. Although they could not see anything, they still felt a little nervous. Go. Zhishang nodded. All right. Since that's the case, let's stay and observe the situation. With Zhishang around, there was nothing to be afraid of. That's great. The Lu sisters nodded excitedly. Although the two sisters said it in a carefree manner, they were also very unwilling to leave just like that. The Middle Continent Alliance will be organized in 3 days. When the time comes, you just have to follow me to participate. Wanli Mingxian had already asked around. He felt that he was very lucky to be able to meet these 3 people. Otherwise, he might have to spend a lot of effort to enter the ruins. In the next 3 days, whenever Yunjioga and the Lu sisters went out to ask around, they would always run into Foundation establishment cultivators who wanted to hire them to go to the ruins. For example, the middle-aged swordsman could be politely brushed off. Those with a domineering temper would directly threaten and bribe them. At this time it was Wanli Mingxian who stood up for them. Fortunately, fighting was prohibited in the workshop. Otherwise, many lives would have been lost. Apart from asking around, the 3 of them also went to the Middle Continent workshop to search for treasures. Many cultivators would set up stalls at the free market in the west of the Middle Continent after robbing or picking up things that they did not want. It was much cheaper than in the Ziyun workshop. Of course, there were always fakes when searching for treasures. However, Yunjioga had extraordinary eyesight, so he could always tell whether a treasure was real or fake. For example, the coral earrings that Lu Meo was holding were said to have been worn by a succubus before. They could increase one's charm ability. Chapter 372. This coral is fake, it's just an ordinary spiritual coral. 50 spirit stones is simply a scam. Yunjioga ignored the ugly expression of the stall owner and pulled the reluctant Lu Meo away. Walking to a stall with a pile of accessories, Yunjioga squatted down and started to search. In the end, he picked up a purple veil embroidered with cloud patterns and said to Lu Meo, "This is more suitable for you. This veil could automatically produce cloud qi. Apart from nourishing the skin, it could also block all kinds of qi from invading. More importantly, it was several times cheaper than earrings. Could be bought for only 50 spirit stones. It was practically free. Okay, I want this." Lu Mei trusted Yunjioga's taste. "What about me?" Lu Tian'er pouted. "This one." Yunjioga picked up a red sandalwood hairpin. Not only could it moisturize black hair and keep it clean, it could also form a protective cover to protect the head in times of danger. Although the function was a bit useless, the price of 50 spirit stones was a huge profit. Lu Tian'er was also very satisfied with this hairpin. Compared to buying a good thing, she was happier that she got a big bargain. Yunjioga's eyes swept around and was attracted by a pair of worn-out black wings. It looked very similar to the pair of flying magic tools she saw in the Thousand Treasure Tower. However, the quality was slightly better. She was now at the 7th level of Qi Disciple and could already fly with magic tools. However, the speed of the bone spur was very slow and was far worse than a flying magic tool. This is a rank 3 bat wing. It was refined from the bones of a winged bat. Now it's selling at a loss for only 300 spirit stones. The stall owner enthusiastically called out. A few of these bat bones are broken. Moreover, more than half of the runic patterns on it have been erased. Can it still be used? Yunjioga picked it up and looked at it carefully. Of course it can be used. If it was complete, it could be sold for at least 700 spirit stones. It's already a big loss for me to charge you 300 spirit stones. The stall owner said with a pained expression. Please, a flying magic tool that can be sold for 700 spirit stones is just refined. How can this broken thing that you picked up from God knows where compare? That's right. You still have the nerve to sell it for 300 spirit stones. I think it's worth 50 spirit stones at most. The Lu sisters also rolled up their sleeves and joined in the haggling. After a fierce battle of words, Yunjioga finally bought the pair of bat wings for 150 spirit stones. The Lu sisters also took a fancy to the veil and the wooden hairpin as extras. When Yunjioga returned to the inn, she went to ask Zishang to help her repair the runes on the bat stinger. Collecting junk all day long and you still have the nerve to ask me for help? Although Zishang scolded her, he still helped her complete the runes in the end. Yunjioga secretly tried it out and it was very effective. In just a moment it could fly 10 miles away. It was definitely a life-saving treasure. In the blink of an eye, it was time for the central state to assemble. These are for you. Yunjioga gave the Lu sisters each one of the black cloaks he had bought. It's too expensive. Lu Mei refused again and again. They had spent a lot of money on this journey, so they didn't have any more money to buy these things. This is for you. You don't have to pay for it. Yunjioga already knew that the Lu sisters were poor. Thank you, senior brother. Senior brother is really a good person. The Lu sisters immediately received it excitedly and began to study the runes on it. Wow, this can adjust the body shape. I want to adjust into a muscular man. Lu Tian immediately began to adjust, and the black cloak immediately became longer and wider. Use it wisely. This is not cheap. Yunjioga still couldn't help but say a few words. I originally wanted to buy it at the Myriad Treasure Tower, but that place is too black-hearted. It wasn't easy to get it from a small store. So black-hearted. Then let's not go there in the future. The Lu sisters and Yunjioga shared a common enemy. The Myriad Treasure Tower's young master touched his nose and hurriedly changed the topic. It's getting late. Let's hurry over. Let's go. Yunjioga and the Lu sisters put on the cloaks and transformed into 3 muscular men. They followed behind Wan Mingxian and they looked to be half a head taller than him. Wan Mingxian couldn't help but cough twice before saying seriously, we still need to verify our cultivation when we go over later. We can't wear this cloak now. Let's keep it until we enter the ruins. Alright. The Lu sisters reluctantly took off the cloaks, but they still kept the disguise of ugly women on their faces. It's best not to keep the disguise. Wan Mingxian had a troubled expression. Although the gathering order didn't say it very clearly, such a simple disguise could still be easily picked apart. No, there are so many bad people there. What if they covet our beauty? The Lu sisters refused to show their true faces. But your looks are too fake. Wan Mingxian was helpless. Even his toes could see that it was fake. Come. I'll help you change it. Changing her appearance was simply a piece of cake for Yunjioga. She took off the Lu sisters' coarse disguise, took out some medicinal liquid and smeared it on. Then she changed her clothes and immediately transformed. Not bad. Wan Mingxian took a look and nodded in agreement. It's very unique in its ugliness. Lu Mei's skin was slightly dark. She had thick eyebrows, small eyes, a flat nose, a big mouth and a square chin. When she smiled, she revealed a mouth full of yellow teeth. Lu Tian's eyebrows were sparse, and the distance between her eyes was very wide. When she smiled, she looked like an infatuated fool. The 2 sisters threw flirtatious glances at Wan Mingxian at the same time. Let's go. Wan Mingxian didn't dare to look anymore. He turned around and ran out the door. The Middle Ground Ruins was a wasteland 100 miles away from the workshop. At this time, a simple and crude yellow city had already been built on the wasteland, enclosing the entire ruins. Groups of soldiers patrolled on top of the mud walls. The leaders were all middle-stage Foundation establishment cultivators. The security was even tighter than the workshop. The guard was an early-stage Foundation establishment cultivator. He had a long thin face, small eyes and a small mustache above his lips. He took Wan Mingxian's pass and examined it carefully. Then he looked behind him and said, only these 3? Senior. The Lu sisters immediately winked at him. The small mustache's face twitched. He hurriedly looked away and said to a soldier beside him, bring them in. Yes. A soldier at the 3rd level of Qi condensation led Yunjioga and the others inside. They followed the yellow walkway and turned a few corners before arriving at an open space. They were surrounded by mud walls that were 20 feet tall. Below their feet was a brown land overgrown with weeds. Not far away there was an earthy yellow platform. On it, there were 3 large flags of the Central Ground Alliance with a black background and a red heart. 6 Foundation establishment cultivators wearing black masks guarded the platform. There were already 5 Foundation establishment cultivators gathered in the open space. Behind each of them were 3 Qi condensation cultivators. The middle-aged sword cultivator who contacted Yunjioga a few days ago was also there. When he saw her from afar, he nodded at her. Yunjioga also nodded in return. She swept her gaze around and found that most of the people here were itinerant cultivators and righteous cultivators. There was actually no one from the evil sections. Chapter 373. I heard that the evil sects are gathering in another place, Wanli Mingxian said softly. He had been pretending to be a swordsman all this time, which was why he had gathered here. I see. Although Yunjioga was a little surprised, she did not sense anything wrong. The evil sects and the righteous sects had always been at odds, so it was normal for them to make arrangements separately. I heard that the Central Continent Alliance sent out a total of 18 communication talismans, Wanli Mingxian said softly. If we can find 3 Qi refinement disciples among these 18 people, there will be 62 people. Including the Central Continent Alliance's own people, that's too many. Although Yunjioga had never entered the ruins, she knew that it was different from a mystic realm. It would not be very big and there would not be many things, but they would all be of high quality. With so many people going in, there will definitely be a fight. Wanli Mingxian was very experienced in this. He reminded the Lu sisters, if we get separated when we go in, you must protect yourselves. Otherwise you will be the first to die. The Lu sisters nodded solemnly. Fortunately, Lu Meier had the Overlord Flower and Lu Tian'er had the 9 Yudao body. Even if the 2 of them were unfortunately separated, they would not immediately become cannon fodder. It would not be a problem for them to hide for a while. As for Yunjioga, they did not have to worry. Unless Zishang left on his own, they would not get lost anywhere. At that moment, Zishang was looking at the yellow earth wall around him with a solemn expression. What's wrong? Is there a problem? Yunjioga asked. I'm wondering where the ruins are. Zishang replied. It should be behind the wall. Yunjioga guessed. Oh. Zishang shook his head and asked Yunjioga, don't you feel that the circulation of spirit energy here is very slow? Yunjioga tried and found that it was really as Zishang said. She also scanned the surroundings. The Qi refinement cultivators were all excitedly preparing to enter the ruins and did not find anything strange. Is there an array formation carved down here? Yunjioga rubbed the ground with her feet and did not find anything strange. Zishang shook his head and looked at the earthen yellow platform. Yunjioga followed his gaze and saw the few Foundation establishment cultivators looking at the people on the ground with fierce eyes. Noticing Yunjioga's gaze, he immediately glared back at Yunjioga, as if saying, what are you looking at? Be careful that I don't make things difficult for you. What's wrong? The Lu sisters whispered. I'm fine. Yunjioga retracted his gaze as if nothing had happened. He began to be vigilant of his surroundings. After the time it takes for a stick of incense to burn, the remaining 3 Foundation establishment cultivators brought the Qi condensation cultivators over one after another. Everyone was finally here. It's almost time for the ruins to be opened. Foundation establishment cultivators, go ahead and discuss some matters. Qi gathering cultivators wait here. A man as tall and strong as an iron tower walked onto the platform and said loudly, I'm going over. You guys be careful. Wanli Mingxian gave a few more instructions before following the cultivators of the Central State Alliance with the other Foundation establishment cultivators. Come and get your tokens. You'll need them to enter the ruins later. The towering man called the Qi training disciples to gather on the high platform. The Qi condensation cultivators gathered around them. Just as the Lu sisters were about to step forward, they were pulled back by Yunjioga. Be careful. There's something wrong here. The Lu sisters instinctively trusted Yunjioga. They immediately took out bone spikes from their storage pouches and held them in their hands, forming a defensive formation. Yunjioga stared at the high platform. He noticed that after the Qi training cultivators gathered, the large flags on the high platform began to flutter even though there was no wind. Several rays of light spread along the surrounding mud walls. The air became heavy and moist. The spiritual energy that was already having a hard time circulating became even heavier. You three over there. Hurry up and come over. The towering man pointed at Yunjioga and the other two. Yunjioga took a step back instead. He shouted to the Qi training disciples, "Everyone be careful. There's an ambush on the high platform." The Qi training disciples who were collecting tokens immediately became restless. They cautiously retreated, but were stopped by the Foundation establishment cultivators on the high platform. The towering man's eyes narrowed. A vicious glint shot out from them. In the next moment he appeared in front of Yunjioga and the others. With a wave of his right hand, a black hook flew out from his storage pouch towards Yunjioga's chest. Yunjioga summoned his 4 bone spikes to block. With a few popping sounds, the 4 bone spikes were instantly destroyed by the small iron hook. Yunjioga's pupils shrank. His heart was filled with shock. Although her 4 bone spikes were low level, they weren't ordinary. They couldn't even block a single move. This towering cultivator was too strong. Senior apprentice brother, be careful. The Lu sisters pinched their fingers and the puppet Yin corpse fell to the ground. It opened its mouth and spat out a red light to block the small iron hook. Yin corpse sect. The towering man was stunned when he saw the puppet Yin corpse. He immediately revealed a cruel smile. Then I can't let you live. His aura instantly soared as he advanced from the early Foundation establishment stage to the middle Foundation establishment stage. The Lu sisters' faces turned white with fear. If he was at the early Foundation establishment stage they could still fight, but if he was at the middle Foundation establishment stage he would die without a doubt. Yunjioga looked at Zishang and saw him looking at the high platform with a serious expression. At some unknown time the large flag on the high platform flew into the air and turned into a giant black light screen that covered all the Qi training disciples. The light screen was filled with a black and red fog. The Qi training disciples that were touched by the fog let out pitiful cries as they exploded like fireworks and turned into a blood mist. The surrounding tall earthen walls instantly collapsed, revealing the blood-red runes within. Waves of red light spread out like a tide. Yunjioga was shocked to find that they were already at the center of the ruins. This high platform was using the flesh and blood of the Qi training cultivators to open the exit of the ruins. The earth shook and a palace rose from the center of the earth. The black and red fog completely covered the palace. Without a special token from the Central State Alliance, it was impossible to safely pass through this fog. The towering cultivator was a bit anxious. The ruins had already appeared and if he couldn't make it in time, it would be a big loss. He had to quickly kill these 3 ants in front of him. He quickly increased his attacks and the iron hook released a life-chasing black qi. Yunjioga took out his demonic blade and began to fight with the iron hook. The Lu sisters released their small shields and the Overlord flower stood on the side. The 3 of them worked together to defend, completely blocking the attacks of the small iron hook. The towering cultivator's eyes flashed with a fierce glow as he bit the tip of his tongue and spat out a mouthful of blood at the life-chasing devil hook. The life-chasing devil hook instantly grew to a size of 10 meters and was covered in a thick black qi. It whizzed towards Yunjioga and the others. Yunjioga quickly formed a hand seal and condensed the demonic blade into a blood-red long blade. He rushed forward without hesitation. Just as the 2 of them were about to collide, the small black hook suddenly stopped and fell to the ground. The towering cultivator's eyes bulged with blood. He lowered his head in disbelief and saw a white palm appear on his chest. Chapter 374. The towering man suddenly turned his head and saw a man with gray hair and gray eyes, a stunning beauty and a cold expression pinching his heart. Her fair jade-like palms made his heart look even redder than before. Zishang clenched his hand, and the heart shattered into a puddle of blood. The towering man fell to the ground. Before he died he thought, so my heart is red too? Zishang shook his hand in disgust and the blood gathered and fell to the ground. Yunjioga gulped. Every time he saw Zishang dig out someone's heart he felt so cruel and his chest hurt. What are you standing there for? Zishang pointed at the towering man's storage bag. Yunjioga's chest immediately stopped hurting, and he happily picked up the man's storage bag, not forgetting to take the small black iron hook. Lumayer commanded the Overlord flower to devour the towering man's flesh and heart. Let's see what's inside. Yunjioga handed the cultivator's storage bag to Zishang. She couldn't get rid of the mid-stage foundation establishment divine sense. Xianxia helped her open the storage bag and took out a black bracelet. This should be the token to pass through the fog. Then let's go take a look. Thinking that the ruins were on the other side, Xianxia instantly felt a little excited. Put on your bat wings. Xianxia threw the storage bag to Xianxia. Xianxia put away the storage bag and put on the bat wings. The Lu sisters also held the paper crane in their hands, ready to escape at any time. Scope. Xianxia activated the black bracelet, and a faint screen of light enveloped Xianxia and the others. Then they walked into the black light. The black light screen was filled with countless wind blades and tiny black gas, which attacked them like a storm. Purple Deceased Sword then sent out a cloud of purple mist, which blocked the terrifying black chi outside. After a while, Xianxia and the others finally reached the edge of the light screen. From afar they could see that the ruins were majestic and there were more than 10 entrances. Dozens of spiritual lights flew towards the entrance of the palace, all of them mid-stage foundation establishment cultivation. They didn't know how Bailey Mingxian was doing. Senior brother Yunjiu, are we still going in? Lu Tianer's voice was filled with anticipation and fear. With their cultivation, it was extremely dangerous to snatch food from a foundation establishment cultivator's mouth. But what if they really got it? He got a little excited at the thought. Many of these cultivators are from the Central State Alliance. We won't even be enough to fill their teeth. Yunjioga didn't want to expose Xianxia's existence. Then forget it. Lu Mei decisively gave up. Now that they had the Overlord flower, if they were to cultivate it properly, their future would be limitless. Xianxia wore an indifferent expression. If Yunjioga wanted to go, then he would follow. If not, then he would return home. Let's see if we can find Wanli Mingxian. If he could team up with him, he could give it a try. Yunjioga squatted down and waited for a long time. He saw the palace's entrance begin to blur, and the entrance was about to close. However, he still did not see Wanli Mingxuan's shadow. Senior brother, let's go. The Lu sisters also gave up. All right. Yunjioga could only give up. At this time, the storage pouch on her waist suddenly moved, and the small bronze cauldron flew out with a swoosh. Like a meteor chasing after the sun, it flew towards the gradually disappearing entrance of the palace. Tisk. Yunjioga subconsciously activated his bat wings, transforming into a shooting star as he charged into the cauldron. Senior martial brother. Seeing this, the Lu sisters gritted their teeth and released their paper cranes to follow him in. They really know how to cause trouble. Xianxia frowned. His figure was even faster than the Lu sisters, and he instantly passed through the entrance of the palace. The entrance was filled with confusion. Xianxia pinched his fingers and calculated, then he chased towards the east. Yunjioga looked left and right in the palace but could not find the small bronze cauldron. He shouted, "Small cauldron, where are you? Stop shouting." Xianxia rushed over and pulled Yunjioga to the ground. With a dark expression he scolded, "Do you want to die? How dare you barge in with your head covered?" If they had not made a contract, he would not have been able to find her. "I can't find the miniature bronze cauldron." Yunjioga was truly anxious. "Check to see if the fat rat is still there," Xianxia reminded him. Yunjioga took out the spirit beast pouch and saw the treasure-seeking scorpion couple hugging each other and sleeping. The pink cocoon did not change at all, and the place that belonged to the pippy rat was empty. It seemed like the small bronze cauldron had taken it away. Did I not treat them well? Why did they run? Yunjioga was very angry. He felt like he had raised an ingrate. Perhaps there is something in the ruins that attracted it. Xianxia looked around. There was a vast fog all around and he could not see the end of it. What could it be? Yunjioga's eyes lit up. The small bronze cauldron and the pippy rat were both good items. Something that could attract them here had to be a treasure among treasures. Let the treasure-seeking scorpion search. Xianxia directly summoned the scorpion. The scorpion twisted its fat body and climbed up the pouch to Yunjioga's shoulder. It asked, "Lord, why did you summon me?" "See if there are any treasures here," Yunjioga instructed. The scorpion landed on the ground and swung its thick stinger around. It said in a daze, "Lord, I didn't find any treasures. The spiritual chi here seems to be blocked by something. Treasures really aren't that easy to get." Yunjioga was not discouraged. After summoning the scorpion back, she remembered something. Oh right, where are the Lu sisters? She had been in a hurry to run and had forgotten to greet the two sisters. They were probably anxious now. They flew in with you. Zhishang had been focused on chasing after Yunjioga and was not in the mood to take care of the two sisters. Then let's go find them first. This ruins was so strange and there were so many enemies. If there was no one to protect them, the Lu sisters would be in great danger. Right west. Zhishang had vaguely seen the Lu sisters teleport in that direction. Yunjioga flapped her wings and flew west with Zhishang. After flying for a while, the fog in front of them gradually dissipated, and a small village appeared out of nowhere. Straw huts were scattered at the front and back of the village. Skinny Dog was lying in front of the door with its tongue hanging out. A few old cows were pulling pears in the fields. The faces of the farmers were full of worries, and their clothes were also covered with patches. One look and you could tell that they were from an extremely poor family. The crops in the fields were sparse and dry, indicating that it was not the harvest season this year. An old woman with gray temples and a face full of hardships was sitting by the side of the field, wiping away her tears. She looked very sad. The scene in front of her was too real. For a moment, Yunjioga felt like she had come to the wrong place. This is an illusion. Zhishang saw through it with a glance. Let's go down and take a look. Yunjioga believed that this illusion would not appear for no reason. Chapter 375. Yunjioga pulled Zhishang to the ground and walked towards the old woman who was wiping away her tears. He asked, "Auntie, what is this place? Why are you crying out of nowhere?" "Our village is called Stone Village. Today the land is dry and our crops can't survive. My old man is sick, so I can only sell my daughter to Lu Yuanwai in town to be his second wife. I got 10 taels of silver." "I'm so sorry," the old woman said while crying. "Does Lu Yuanwai not treat your daughter well?" Yunjioga asked again. "That Lu Yuanwai is not a local. 8 years ago he brought his 2 newborn sons to Jiushi town. Not long after he married the daughter of a small family in town. That family's daughter died not long after the wedding. I heard that her corpse was eaten by a wild beast. Half a year later Lu Yuanwai married a new wife, but she also died not long after. It was said that she fell into the mountains and her corpse disappeared. The people in town said that he was a wife killer, and no good family was willing to marry their daughter to him. He went to the poor families in the village to buy their daughters and married 5 more in a row. All of them died and their corpses could not be found. My daughter Lotus was the 8th. I was afraid that she would also die if she married him." The old woman cried pitifully. "Since you know that Lu Yuanwai is not a good person, why did you still marry your daughter to him? A person who pushed his daughter into a pit of fire for 10 taels of silver was not worthy of sympathy. I didn't know it was like this at the time. I only heard about it from the peddler later. I quickly took the remaining 5 taels of silver and wanted to bring my daughter back. I could return the money later, but the 5 taels of silver were stolen by the robbers. Without money, Lu Yuanwai refused to let my daughter go. My daughter resented me and didn't even want to see him. What a sin." The old woman cried even harder. "Your daughter didn't want to come back. Could it be that Lu Yuanwai used your life to threaten her? This was a trick that bad people often used. That must be the case. Young master, I see that you are kind. Please save my daughter." The old woman knelt down and was about to beg. "Auntie, don't be like this. Please get up." Yunjioga quickly supported the old woman and comforted her. "I will go to town and help you, but I'm afraid that Lotus won't believe us. Do you have a keepsake for us?" "Yes." The old woman tremblingly took out a red headband from her patched pocket and said, "This is what Lotus likes to wear before she gets married. She will believe you the moment she sees this." Yunjioga took the red rope and asked for directions to the town. He comforted the old woman and left her 10 taels of silver for her to treat her husband's illness. "Little Gongzi is such a good person." The old lady was so moved that she took out a silver lotus hairpin and said, "This is what my daughter gave me when I visited her last time. I don't need it now, so you can go back and give it to her. If she doesn't want to come back and wants to live with Lu Yuanwai, then let her think more about herself and save more money. It's all because I'm useless as a mother. I didn't even prepare a dowry for her." The aunt cried again as she spoke. "Don't worry, auntie. I will deliver your message." Yunjioga took the silver hairpin and left Stone Village, heading towards town. "It's just an illusion. You are quite serious. Zishang saw that Yunjioge looked like he was having a good time. That old woman is really worried about her daughter. As long as the feelings were real, even an illusion was worth helping. Where did you get the 10 taels of silver? Zishang asked. I was afraid that I wouldn't be able to find change for the spiritual jade when I went to Thunder Country, so I prepared it. I still have a lot of gold and silver jewelry in my storage bag. Do you want to spend some? Yunjioge asked with a smile. Keep it to redeem your lotus. Zishang was obviously playing with Yunjioge. The two of them walked for a while and arrived at Jiushi town. The town wasn't big with only a few hundred households. It was called Jiushi town because there was a small stream that flowed through the town and made 9 turns. Yunjioge found a small tea house. After ordering tea, he asked the skinny waiter about Lu Yuanwei. The waiter's situation was similar to the old woman's. Lu Yuanwei did have a reputation for cursing his wife. However, he was a very good person. He built bridges and paved roads. He gave money everywhere. He was a very kind person. Yunjioge asked about Lu Yuanwei's new wife, Lotus. The skinny waiter said that Lu Yuanwei loved his new wife very much. Not only did he often bring her out for meals, but he also bought the best clothes and jewelry. What's the point of asking them? We can just go and find her. Zishang really didn't blame Yunjioge for dilly-dallying. Then let's go now. Yunjioge brought Zishang to Lu Yuanwei's house. Lu Yuanwei was about 40 years old. He had a pale face and a kind face. He looked like a good person. When he found out that Yunjioge was Lotus' relative, he not only warmly received them but also called Lotus out. Lotus was beautiful. She wore a brand new lotus-colored satin dress. She was so thin that a gust of wind could blow her away. When she saw the red headband that Yunjioge brought, she only said a few words. Mother worries too much. I'm living well here. My husband treats me very well too. Please tell her not to worry too much when you go back. Come on, what's so good about being so thin? Yunjioge believed that Lotus wouldn't have looked so skinny in the past. How could she do farm work without daring? However, when she saw Lu Yuanwei's smiling face, she didn't say much and could only say goodbye. As soon as they left, Yunjioge asked Zishang, "Did you see anything? I saw that this is all an illusion." Zishang looked bored. It seemed like it was all an illusion. What could he find? This illusion is definitely not that simple. Let's go and continue looking for clues. Yunjioge dragged Zishang around the town. After asking around, they found some clues. First, Lu Yuanwei brought back 2 babies 8 years ago. However, after 8 years, the people in town never saw Lu Yuanwei with the babies. Second, every wife of Lu Yuanwei had nightmares not long after they got married. They said that there was a big monster and 2 small monsters haunting them. The last point made Yunjioge feel strange. The people in town were all as thin as Lotus. This coincidence was too strange. This Lu Yuanwei is either a mountain spirit or a ghost. Yunjioge finally came to a conclusion after careful speculation. If we want him to show himself, we have to meet certain conditions. Zishang finally became a little more spirited. Let's go ask Lotus tonight. During the day, Lu Yuanwei was always by Lotus's side. Even if she had something to say, she didn't dare to say it. If she doesn't want to leave, just knock her out and take her away. In the end, Zishang still liked to use violence to solve problems. Chapter 376. The night was dark and the town was extremely quiet. Only the occasional barking of a dog could be heard. Yunjioge and Zishang sneaked into Squire Lu's residence. She first scanned the entire mansion with her divine sense, but she did not find any monsters, nor did she see the 2 legendary children. Lu Yuanwei was sleeping soundly on the bed. Beside him, Lotus was in a daze, unable to fall asleep for a long time. At this moment, there was the sound of something falling to the ground and knocking on the window. Lotus was startled. She looked up and saw that something had been stuffed into the window. It was the red rope from earlier. She hesitated for a moment, but in the end she put on her clothes and walked out. Sure enough, she saw the handsome young man her mother had entrusted to her standing under the tree waiting for her. "Why are you here again?" Lotus lowered her voice. "Auntie asked me to return this to you. She said that she wasn't able to prepare a dowry for you when you got married. She told you to keep it as your own money and think more about yourself. If you miss home, you can go back." Yunjioge took out the silver lotus hairpin. Lotus looked at the lotus hairpin in a daze. Tears flowed down her thin cheeks. She choked and said, I thought mother only wanted money and didn't want me anymore. How could that be? Auntie cries at home every day. She is worried that something will happen to you here. She has always wanted to bring you home, but she has no choice. She has come a few times, but Lu Yuanwei has chased her away. Don't you know about this? Yun Jioga said half-truthfully. Squire Lu said that my mother came to him a few times to ask for money. He also said that in my mother's heart, I'm just a money tree. Even if I leave this place, my mother will sell me somewhere else. Lotus sobbed. Nonsense, Auntie was left with 5 taels of silver after treating the old man's illness. She wanted to use it to ransom you, but the robbers took it away. The old man is injured now and she has to take care of the old man and worry about you. Her body is about to collapse, Yun Jioga said vividly. Boo-hoo, mother. Lotus covered her mouth and cried her heart out. Her shoulders kept twitching. Auntie misses you very much. Why don't you come back with us? If Lu Yuanwei was really a monster, he would definitely transform when he saw Lotus leave. I can't go back. Unexpectedly, Lotus wiped away her tears and shook her head decisively. Why? You don't want to see Auntie? Yun Jioga asked curiously. No, it's my child who can't leave me, Lotus said with a troubled expression. Child, when did you have a child? Didn't they say that Lotus had just married into the family not long ago? I have 2 children. They are well behaved and adorable. I want to stay and take care of them, Lotus said with a motherly smile on her face. Yun Jioga remembered that the townspeople had said that Lu Yuanwei had 2 children, but no outsider had ever seen them. Could it be these 2? Let her take us to see the 2 children, Zishang whispered into Yun Jioga's ear. Yun Jioga nodded. Then he gave Lotus a wolf-like smile and said, Lotus, Auntie must be very happy to know that you have children. Can you take us to see them? That way I can give Auntie an explanation when I return. Lotus hesitated for a moment but finally nodded and said, Okay, but my children are very shy and afraid of meeting strangers. Don't make any noise later lest you scare them. Okay, I promise I won't make a sound. Yun Jioga nodded solemnly. Lotus took Yun Jioga to a rock garden in a secluded courtyard and went underground through a dark tunnel. Yun Jioga quietly followed the Lotus to the ground and saw a black pool of water. Children, mother is here. Lotus had a dreamy expression on her face as she squatted beside the pool and stirred the black water. The ripples spread out as if they had startled some kind of monster. The waves in the water were turbulent, and 2 waves rushed over one after another. Then a big and a small black figure crawled out of the water. Their heads looked a bit like a human's face. They didn't have a nose and were covered in scales. They had blood-red eyes, sharp teeth, a lizard's body and a long tail. As soon as the 2 monsters came ashore, they pounced at Lotus. They grabbed her arm and bit her, then began to suck her blood. Good child, eat slowly. Don't rush. Lotus had a kind smile on her thin face as she watched the 2 monsters suck her blood. She didn't care about the life force in her body draining away. Yun Jioga frowned and couldn't help but shout, Lotus. Her voice wasn't loud, but it was very clear in the quiet and gloomy underground. Lotus was startled. She immediately regained her senses and looked down to see the 2 monsters sucking her blood. She immediately screamed and shook them off. When the 2 monsters realized that their food had woken up, they immediately opened their bloody mouths and pounced at Lotus. Yun Jioga immediately took out his evil blade and turned into 5 bloody lights. The big monster was more cunning. It twisted its body and hid behind the small monster. The small monster didn't care and pounced forward. With a sweep of its tail, it knocked the first evil blade away. The second evil blade was knocked askew. The third evil blade cut through the small monster's scales. The fourth evil blade left a white mark on its body. The fifth one pierced its neck and pinned it to the ground. The small monster immediately let out a shrill scream. The 5 evil blades rushed forward and quickly sucked it dry. The big monster saw that the situation wasn't good. It swung its tail and wanted to escape back into the water. The excited evil blade pierced through the back of its head and turned around to cut the monster in half. Blood spurted out and was sucked clean by the evil saber. Who killed my child? The black water surged and a furious roar of shock could be heard. Half of Lu Yunwei's body came out of the water. Seeing the 2 dead monsters, his eyes turned red with hatred. His teeth opened wide as black scales grew from his face to his entire body. In an instant he turned into a monster as big as the 2 small monsters and pounced at Yun Jioga. Yunjioga formed a hand seal. The 5 evil blades turned into streaks of light and stabbed towards Lu Yuanwei. But the scales on his body bounced them off. Lu Yuanwei's thick black tail swept towards Yunjioga. The bat wings on Yunjioga's back flapped and he dodged to the side, forming another hand seal to control the evil blades to attack Lu Yuanwei. After a few moves, the water in the pond splashed and the passage collapsed. Lu Yuanwei relied on his tough scales to ignore the evil blades' attacks. Yunjioga relied on his wings to dodge his attacks. On the surface they seemed to be evenly matched. But Lu Yuanwei was becoming more and more aggressive as he fought. Yunjioga was using up a lot of spirit energy. He was starting to feel a bit weak. Don't fight him head-on, find his weakness. Zhishang couldn't stand it anymore and reminded from the side. Yunjioga obviously knew to find his weakness. But even after using the evil blades to test every part of Lu Yuanwei's body, she couldn't find any weak points. If only she could open her spirit eye. Yunjioga was distracted and accidentally got hit by Lu Yuanwei's tail. She lost her balance and fell to the ground. Chapter 377. Lu Yuanwei's large tail came crashing down. Yunjioga quickly rolled away to avoid the attack, but when she got up she found the corpse of a small monster hanging on her sleeve. Her eyes lit up. That's right, the back of his head. All 3 of them were of the same race, so their weaknesses were the same. Yunjioga once again flew up, forming a hand seal to control the evil blade to attack the back of Lu Yuanwei's head. Lu Yuanwei's tail was very agile, tightly protecting the weak spot behind his head. Yunjioga didn't hesitate to take the risk to attract Lu Yuanwei's attention, then commanded the main blade to hide next to Lu Yuanwei, and finally found an opening to stab the back of Lu Yuanwei's head. Lu Yuanwei roared, wanting to shake the evil blade out of his body, but that triggered the evil blade's absorption ability. The remaining 4 small blades took this chance to attack, striking the main blade one after another, instantly forming a long blood-red evil blade, cutting off Lu Yuanwei's head. Lu Yuanwei's body landed heavily on the ground, turning into a human-faced crocodile monster. The souls of 7 women flew out from his body, most likely the 7 wives killed by the monster. Just as Yunjioga was about to check the monster's body, a blue light flashed, and the soul of a beautiful woman floated out. This soul was glowing. It was a Foundation Establishment middle-stage cultivator. Thank you for killing the monster and saving me, the female cultivator gratefully bowed to Yunjioga. May I know your name and how did you get swallowed by this monster? Yunjioga felt like he could get some information from this female cultivator. My name is Wen Hui. I'm one of the last batch of cultivators to enter the ruins. The female cultivator said something shocking. Turns out this ruin only appears once every 8 years and its location isn't fixed, but it always requires a large amount of cultivators' blood and souls to open, and only Foundation Establishment cultivators can enter the ruins. Every cultivator that enters the ruins will encounter an illusion. If you brutally kill someone in the illusion, a powerful monster will appear, and the more people you kill, the stronger the monster that appears. When Hui entered the ruins with a sword cultivator. That sword cultivator was impatient and straightforward. As soon as he saw the illusion, he killed everyone in an attempt to break it, but in the end this powerful crocodile came. After the crocodile devoured the sword cultivator, it raped Wen Hui. After Wen Hui gave birth to 2 baby crocodiles, her soul was devoured by the big crocodiles, and her body was eaten by the baby crocodiles. Once we kill the crocodile men, we'll be able to obtain the pass to the first stage of the ruins from their brains. Wen Hui guided Yunjioga to dig open the crocodile man's brain. In the end they obtained a black inner core, which was also a pass. Looks like helping the people in the illusion solve their problems is the correct way to clear this stage. Yunjioga held the pearl and looked at Zhishang proudly. Who was the one who said she was bored? Zhishang gave Yunjioga a good look. Dao friend, I have another matter that I need your help with. Wen Hui looked at Yunjioga with a pleading look. Fellow Taoist Wen, please speak, said Yunjioga. Please help me send this cloud pattern gold thread embroidery needle back to the Wen family of Eastern Cloud Nation. As a reward, I will give you the Wen family's inherited talisman cultivation technique. Wen Hui reached out her hand and pulled out a white needle with golden edges from the back of the crocodile man's head. If she had not sacrificed herself to pin this cloud pattern gold thread embroidery needle into the back of the crocodile man's head, Yunjioga would have had to spend a lot of effort to kill it. Sure. Yun Jioga took the needle from Wenhui's hand. This top-tier 4th-tier magic tool was a rare treasure, but it was not enough to make her forget her morals for the sake of profit. Thank you. Wenhui smiled. After shooting a ball of light at Yun Jioga, her soul disappeared without a trace. Yun Jioga's mind was filled with notes on talisman embroidery. Although it was not very advanced, the basic content was very detailed. It was most suitable for a novice like Yun Jioga. I will leave my clothes to you from now on. Zishang was very supportive of Yun Jioga learning talisman embroidery. No problem, leave it to me. Yun Jioga suddenly felt like he was valued by Zishang. Ah, monster. At this moment, Lotus, who was lying in the corner, opened her eyes and screamed in fear. Just now, Zishang had cast a protective barrier on her, so she was not affected by the battle. It's okay, I've already killed the monster. Yun Jioga explained what happened and even summoned the souls of the 7 women. When Lotus saw them, she immediately fainted. Yun Jioga scratched her face awkwardly. It seemed like she had messed up. In the end, Zishang sealed Lotus's memory and sent her home with Yun Jioga to reunite with her. Next, Yun Jioga placed a batch of antidote pills at the source of the stream. The crocodile man had poisoned the water nearby. The humans who drank the water would be bewitched by him and willingly give their blood to him. If the poison was not removed, these people would become weaker and die soon. After Yun Jioga settled everything and confirmed that the people of the town were fine, she prepared to leave. Unexpectedly, as soon as she left the town, the crocodile man's black inner core shot up into the sky. After a flash of light, the illusion of the town disappeared, and a huge maze appeared in front of her. Did the owner of the ruins create this illusion to find a kind person? Yun Jioga was confused. To be honest, if she was not in this godforsaken place, she would not be in the mood to pay attention to this illusion. Good people don't live long. He probably wants to treat us differently. After all, people who use such a stupid method usually don't have high cultivation. Zishang's words were straight to the point. All right. Yun Jioga had to admit it. The reason why she spent so much time on the illusion was because her cultivation was too low. She could not be impulsive and could only choose the safe method. The two of them walked forward for an hour and finally reached the entrance of the maze. The entrance of the maze was 3 feet high and the roof was a huge, handsome devil statue. This devil had curved horns like a sheep and black hair that was curled like seaweed. Its long and narrow eyes were pitch black. Its sexy lips were tightly pursed and its expression was very cold. A pair of hands covered in black scales wrapped around the entrance as if welcoming Yun Jioga into its embrace. Yun Jioga inexplicably felt that this devil statue was a little familiar, as if she had seen it somewhere before. She could not help but look at it carefully. Is it nice? Zishang's voice sounded in Yun Jioga's ears, startling her. Isn't it just a stone statue? What's so nice about it? Yun Jioga rolled her eyes at Zishang inexplicably. He made it sound like she was infatuated. Use your divine sense to scan the surroundings and see if there is anything going on. Zishang saw that Yun Jioga really did not care about the stone statue and quickly returned to normal. Oh. Yun Jioga obediently released her divine sense to scan the surroundings. After confirming that there was no danger, she carefully walked into the entrance. Zishang walked behind her and was about to enter the entrance when he suddenly looked up. He saw the eyes of the devil statue flickering with red light. Its sexy lips curled up into a demonic smile. Its eyes looked greedily and longingly at Yun Jioga's back. Zishang's eyes flashed with a dangerous light. With a flick of his finger, 2 purple lights shot through the devil statue's eyes. The devil statue immediately dimmed. Its mouth was tightly pursed and it returned to its cold appearance. Chapter 378. Zishang, come here quickly. Yun Jioga stood nearby and beckoned, completely unaware of the abnormality of the devil's stone statue. Zishang glanced at the devil's stone statue one last time before returning to Yun Jioga's side in a flash. What were you looking at just now? Yun Jioga asked curiously. I was thinking about how to get out of this maze. Zishang said without changing his expression, not mentioning the abnormality of the devil's stone statue. Then have you found a way? Yun Jioga's attention was immediately diverted. There are no clues at the moment. Zishang shook his head, his expression unusually grim. Is this maze very dangerous? Yun Jioga suddenly felt a little nervous. No matter how she looked at the blood-red walls, she felt uncomfortable as if someone was spying on her. She tried to send out her divine sense to probe but was repelled by the walls. She couldn't fly up, couldn't move on the ground, and couldn't use the teleportation talisman. She could only rely on her 2 legs to move forward. This maze also has hallucinatory elements. You have to be careful, follow behind me. Xianxia turned and walked in front. Yunjioge followed behind and silently looked at Xianxia's broad back. He suddenly felt a little uncomfortable. She didn't know if it was an illusion, but she always felt that Xianxia was a little cold towards her. He didn't tease her anymore, and he didn't use the opportunity to ask for kisses and caresses like before when he was in danger. At first, Yunjioge felt that Xianxia was quite good like this, but now she suddenly felt that he lacked that kind of intimacy and was no different from an ordinary friend. Most importantly, they hadn't dual cultivated for a long time. Although her dantian was stable and didn't need to dual cultivate to replenish her spiritual energy, Xianxia's honesty still made her very uncomfortable. Did she lose her charm or was she too ugly now? Yunjioge couldn't help but touch her face and quickly began to despise herself. In the past she couldn't wait for Xianxia to stay away from her, but now she had a thirsty look on her face. Wasn't she being cheap? Xianxia didn't notice Yunjioge's internal struggle. He kept a calm face as he guided Yunjioge to the right path. They walked like this for more than 2 hours, passing through countless crossroads, but still didn't see any clues to pass. Xianxia had been silent the entire time. He seemed to be deep in thought, but at the same time he seemed to be in a daze. He often took a long time to react to Yunjioge's questions, or he didn't even hear them. After Yunjioge cultivated the 10,000 beast spell, her body was very strong, so walking was nothing to her. However, Xianxia's silence made her feel very uncomfortable. When she tried to chat but failed again, she was a little angry. If you ignore me, I'll ignore you. Let's see who surrenders first. Just like that, the 2 of them walked silently for another hour. Xianxia did not feel anything, but Yunjioge was extremely depressed. Just as she was about to explode from holding it in, she suddenly heard the sounds of intense fighting in the distance, as well as the cries of a child. It's Lumiere's tyrant flower. Yunjioge's spirits immediately rose. This way. Xianxia pointed in the opposite direction. They must be in danger. I am going to save them. Yunjioge angrily walked toward the source of the sound. We have to go this way to save them. The further we go, the further we go. Xianxia held on to Yunjioge and explained patiently. All right. Yunjioge looked at Xianxia's sincere face, and finally decided to follow him into the opposite tunnel. After turning 2 corners, the sounds of fighting that were far away just now were now right in front of them. Yunjioge tiptoed over and peeked his head out to take a look. She saw the Lu sisters, one controlling the tyrant flower, and the other activating the abyssal Taoist body. They were fighting with 2 middle-stage Foundation Establishment realm evil cultivators who looked rather disheveled. Of the 2 evil cultivators, one was a short and fat old man with messy white hair. He held a dark green bamboo stick in his hand. There were 3 dark green leaves on the stick, and the veins in the leaves looked like there was blood flowing inside. Every time he waved the stick, a sky full of poisonous thorns would fly out and trap Lumiere. The other evil cultivator was an elegant middle-aged scholar wearing a brown scholar's robe. He held a black ruler in his hand, and there were many green-faced evil spirits engraved on it. At that moment, the ruler's light was dim and a lot of evil spirits were used up, so its power was greatly reduced. The Lu sisters seemed to be in high spirits and they were unharmed. That was why they could fight with the 2 evil cultivators for so long. However, their cultivation was too low, and if they dragged on they would definitely lose. Little lowly slaves, don't think that you can escape by removing the imprint. If you come back to me obediently, I promise to spare your lives. The middle-aged scholar commanded the green-faced evil spirit to attack Lu Tian while threatening her with a gentle tone. Unfortunately, Lu Tian completely ignored him. Her black hair fluttered, her eyes were bloodshot, her teeth were sharp, and her nails were long. She had completely entered the living corpse state, and her attacks were incomparably fierce. She wanted to capture her enemy. Lumia was also focused on commanding the tyrant flower to break through the poisonous thorns. She wanted to kill the fat old man to help her sister. Brother Strange, are you sure these 2 girls are your escaped slaves? The fat old man asked. I would recognize them even if they turned into ashes. The middle-aged scholar looked at the Lu sisters with greedy eyes. If he had known that these two playthings could grow into what they were today, he would have cast a soul curse to not give them a chance to escape. These two girls are not bad. I'll give you a rank 4-3 nether bone transformation vine. How about it? The fat old man showed a greedy expression, and he was very satisfied with the Lu sisters. Only one, but let's take them down first. When the middle-aged scholar was breaking through the illusion, he was entangled by a three-headed rhinoceros. After defeating the monster and clearing the stage, his power was greatly reduced. Otherwise, he would have been able to take down Lu Tian. Okay. When the fat old man heard that the middle-aged scholar was willing to part with his treasures, he immediately became proactive. His injuries were better than the middle-aged scholar's, but he didn't use his full strength just now. He reached out and plucked the 3 dark green leaves from the bamboo cane and threw them into the air. The 3 leaves immediately turned into a big red and green net that flew towards Lumei. Lumei realized that the old man had used his ultimate move, so she bit the tip of her tongue and spat out a mouthful of blood at the tyrant flower. The tyrant flower waved its small hands, and the red demon eye on its face immediately shot out a red light to block the big net. Not bad, not bad. The more the old man looked at Lumei, the more he felt that Lumei was not bad. She could block his 1,000 silk green net at only Chi Disciple level 6, her future was limitless. But she was still a bit tender and still needed to be trained. The fat old man waved his bamboo cane again, and the 1,000 silk green net shone brightly, pressing down heavily on her. Lumei's face was pale and she felt like there was a huge mountain pressing down on her head, and she was about to explode. At this time the middle-aged scholar's face changed and he turned his head to the left and shouted, "Who's there?" Chapter 379. Before the middle-aged scholar finished his sentence, several green-faced evil spirits flew towards the corner. The bamboo stick in the chubby old man's hand also shot out a leaf-shaped green light and flew together with the green-faced evil spirit. With 2 bangs, the green-faced evil spirit and Yi Guang were smashed into pieces at the same time. Then a Chi Disciple level 7 youth in white clothes walked out of the passage and looked at them expressionlessly. It was Yun Jioga who was caught peeping. "Senior brother." Lumei saw Yun Jioga and immediately called out excitedly. "Senior brother?" The middle-aged scholar frowned. It was already difficult for him, a foundation establishment middle stage, to come to this maze, but this Chi Disciple youth seemed to be able to do it easily. There must be something extraordinary about him. Thinking about it again, the Lu sisters looked at this youth as if they saw their savior, which meant they really believed in this youth's ability. The middle-aged scholar's heart suddenly thumped when he thought of this. The sudden sense of danger made him turn around without hesitation and escape in a flash of light. The chubby old man was stunned. He knew this cunning old monster very well. He must have discovered the terror of this youth in front of him, that's why he ran away in a hurry. The chubby old man immediately put away the net and wanted to escape, but it was too late. A palm with a faint gray aura pulled out his heart and squeezed it into meat paste. Xianxia had been in a bad mood ever since he saw the Devil Stone statue. He needed to vent but couldn't let Yun Jioga know. The chubby old man could only blame his bad luck for running into the muzzle of a gun. Xianxia directly threw the meat paste on the tyrant flower's face, then threw the chubby old man's bamboo stick and storage bag to Yun Jioga. The tyrant flower excitedly stuck out its long tongue and began to lick the meat paste on its face. Its small hands kept on catching the blood that dripped down its face. Yun Jioga looked at it and immediately looked away after collecting the spoils of war. He went to ask Lumei about the situation after entering the secret realm. Lumei helped her sister get rid of the cold ghost energy while talking about what happened after they entered the ruins. The illusion they encountered was a brothel. There was a girl called Mei Xiang who was almost beaten to death because she didn't want to receive customers. Mei Xiang was originally the only daughter of the town's teacher and grew up pampered. Unexpectedly, after her parents died, her aunt sold her to a gambler for only 5 taels of silver. The gamblers beat and scolded her. Not only did they sell their only son to someone else, but they also sold her to a brothel to pay off their debts. The Lu sisters had destroyed the brothel. Not only had they rescued Mei Xiang, but they had also made appropriate arrangements for the other weak women in the brothel. Then they went to find the gambler's husband, killed the monster on him and got the pass. Then they helped Mei Xiang find her sold son. After that he helped Mei Xiang settle down in her new home, taught her how to make tofu to earn money, and even helped her pay for her son's schooling. In the end she found out that the honest peddler next door liked Mei Xiang and even arranged a marriage between them. The Lu sisters stayed with Mei Xiang and helped her solve many problems. They didn't leave the dreamland until she had many children and grandchildren and died of old age. The pass would send them straight into the maze. Admirable. Yunjioga gave the Lu sisters a thumbs up. To be able to accompany Mei Xiang for the rest of her life, what kind of patience was required? Senior brother Yunjio, please don't laugh at us. Lu Mei smiled bitterly. The two sisters sympathized with Mei Xiang and hoped that she could be happy. By the way, was that middle-aged scholar the evil old monster? Yunjioga asked again. That's right. Lu Mei nodded seriously. Not long after they entered the maze, they located the old monster's position. In order to avoid him, they purposely chose the opposite direction, but they didn't expect to bump into him. We only met him once on the way to Zhongzhou. We only got rid of him thanks to senior brother Wan Li. Lu Tian had already used her ghost energy to return to her human form. She gritted her teeth and her face twisted when she talked about her enemy. Don't worry, you will definitely have the chance to take revenge. That old monster had used up a lot of energy on his way here. Even without Zishang's help he should be able to kill him. Yes. The Lu sisters nodded. As long as they could kill the old monster, it was worth it even if they got nothing in the ruins. At this moment Zishang suddenly said, I know how to get out of this maze. Really? Yunjioga hurriedly turned his head. However, Zishang flicked his finger, and the overlord flower that was chewing on the fat old man's corpse sensibly took its food away. On the ground where the fat old man was lying, a red circular token appeared out of nowhere. Kill people and take their lives. This is the condition to pass. Zishang took the red circular token into his hand and tossed it to Yunjioga. Yunjioga carefully examined the token. The surface of the token was extremely smooth. The fat old man's soul was struggling desperately inside. As long as you feed this token to the wall, you will be able to leave the maze. Zishang gestured for Yunjioga to try. Yunjioga held the token and carefully touched the wall. The blood-colored wall squirmed and countless bloody mouths appeared, squeezing toward Yunjioga with all their might. Yunjioga hurriedly retreated. After taking 3 steps, the bloody mouths disappeared and the wall returned to its original state. Could this be another trap? For example, the more people we kill, the more terrifying the wall will become? The Lu sisters asked anxiously. Probably not. Yunjioga believed in Zishang's judgment. But the Lu sisters were still a little hesitant. As an evil cultivator, if you can't do as you please, what's the point of cultivating? Zishang's cold and emotionless words enlightened the Lu sisters. They had discussed and obtained the pass to enter the illusion realm, preserving their complete strength and gaining a great advantage in the maze. However, if they still wanted to use tricks like the previous illusion realm, they would instead fall into the trap of their inner demons. Cultivation was originally like rowing a boat against the current. Only by eliminating all obstacles would one be able to move forward. Seeing that the Lu sisters had thought it through, Zishang turned and left. Senior martial brother, is Senior Zombie unhappy? Lu Tianer quietly came over and asked. Senior Zombie looked especially fierce today, making it hard for people to get close to him. Who knows what's wrong with him now? Yunjioga also didn't understand what Zishang was thinking. Lu Tianer and her sister looked at each other and didn't dare to ask anymore. The more time they spent with Yunjioga, the more they felt that this 1,000-year-old senior zombie was very strange. Not only could he talk, scold, and lose his temper, but he also knew many other things. If it wasn't for the death aura on his body, the two sisters definitely wouldn't believe that he was a zombie. It was unknown whether it was because the maze was too big or because there were too few people, but Yunjioga and the others didn't see a single person after walking for 4 hours. Let's rest for a while. Yunjioga saw the Lu sisters' foreheads sweating, so he suggested resting. The Lu sisters' cultivation was lower than Yunjioga's, and they didn't specialize in body tempering. After walking for so long, they were indeed tired, so they sat down and drank some water to adjust their breathing. Yunjioga drank some water and found that Zishang was in a daze again. He felt inexplicably angry. At this time, the overlord flower on Lu Meier's shoulder suddenly jumped to the ground. Its demonic eyes flickered with a red light, and it danced with joy as if it had found something good. Chapter 380. The Tyrant Flower Smells Blood. Lu Mei immediately stood up. After passing through the ravine with the tyrant flower, she pointed to the left passage and said, "It's in that direction. Let's go and take a look." Lu Tian'er's spirit was lifted. After walking for so long, she finally found a pass. "Let's go." Yunjioge also wanted to leave this damned place as soon as possible. Ever since Zishang had entered this labyrinth, he had been acting strangely. He was so cold that she almost couldn't recognize him anymore. Zishang's handsome face did not have any expression as he instantly entered the in-corpse state, following behind Yunjioge with a dark expression. Yunjioge and the others passed through 2 passages, and the smell of blood became stronger. Not far away, a black-robed male cultivator lay on the ground, covered in blood. His life aura was extremely weak, no different from a corpse. Yunjioge signaled to Lu Mei with his eyes. The Lu sisters were also overjoyed in their hearts. This was simply a good thing, like a pie falling from the sky. However, for the sake of caution, the Lu sisters did not rashly go up. Instead, they commanded the Overlord flower to quietly walk over. Drooling, the tyrant flower floated over with its 2 feet off the ground. It was about to drag the fresh food to a corner and eat it. A small black sword suddenly burst out from the male cultivator's body. It abruptly pierced through the Overlord flower's body, then continued to shoot towards Yunjioge with a black shadow. Yunjioge immediately summoned the evil saber. 5 rays of red light interweaved to form a defensive net, finally blocking the black saber. Lu Mei felt extremely distressed as she recalled the Overlord flower. There was a large hole in the tyrant flower's stomach, and the blood essence it had obtained from devouring the fat old man was slowly floating out. Fortunately, its brain was fine. Seeing that Yunjioge could handle it, Lu Mei concentrated on infusing her spiritual energy to repair the Overlord flower's belly. Yunjioge's evil blade and the small black sword were locked in battle. Zishang didn't make a move. Instead, he looked at the black-robed male cultivator thoughtfully. He then extended a finger and pointed forward, sending a wisp of death chi toward the black-robed corpse. The small black sword instantly flew back to protect its master. After splitting apart the death chi, the slender figure of a woman in white emerged from the tip of the sword. She hugged the male cultivator and turned around to run away. What was that just now? For some reason, Yunjioge felt that the woman in white was very dangerous. "That's the sword spirit," Zishang said before turning invisible again. Yunjioge didn't notice that Zishang was turning invisible again. She was just shocked to think that the legendary sword spirit looked like this. It was a pity that she did not see what she looked like. "That's not right. Why does that small black sword feel so familiar? It's like I've seen it somewhere before." Just as Yunjioge was trying to recall where he had seen the small black sword, he saw the small black sword carrying the male cultivator back at an even faster speed. Behind it came the sound of chaotic footsteps and excited shouts. "Here, here." Yunjioge looked from afar and saw the middle-aged swordsman who had teased her to cooperate with him rushing over with 3 Central Plains cultivators. When the middle-aged swordsman saw Yunjioge and the others, he immediately stopped and said with a sinister smile, "I didn't expect you fellows to be able to avoid the blood spirit array. I didn't think that you fellows would come here to deliver passage tokens. 1, 2, 3, 4. Just enough." Yunjioge did not have a favorable impression of these cultivators from the Central Plains who deceived ordinary cultivators. If they ran into each other, they would just kill them. After all, Zishang was here. "Ha ha ha, 3 Chi Condensation Realm cultivators dared to threaten us." The middle-aged cultivator roared with laughter. He pointed at the male cultivator lying in the corner that the small black sword had placed. "Your backer has already been killed by us. What other skills do you have?" "Backer?" Yunjioge was stunned, but she quickly thought of a possibility. Could that male corpse be Wanli Mingxian? That's right, she remembered. When the in-corpse puppet ran out of control and met Wanli Mingxian, it was that small black sword that flew out to block their sneak attack. "It really is senior brother Wanli, he's not dead yet." The Lu sisters finally recognized him. They couldn't be blamed for being blind. At that time, Wanli Mingxian was lying on the ground with his face covered in blood, so it was hard for them to recognize him. "This brat's heart has already been injured by us, he's not far from death." As long as you give me his sword, not only will I let you live, I'll even give you 3 passage tokens. In order to prove his words, the middle-aged swordsman took out 3 round red tokens. Each token had a sealed divine soul. I want them. Yun Jioge stared at the tokens. If there were 3 of them, it would be enough for Wanli Mingxian. If you want them, then give them to me. The middle-aged cultivator revealed a proud and contemptuous smile. The Central State cultivators had studied the ruins for 3 years, so they had made ample preparations before coming in. No matter what checkpoint they met, they would be able to smoothly gather together, so collecting the tokens was very smooth. Until they met Wanli Mingxian. Although he was only at the early Foundation establishment realm, his methods were not ordinary, and he had even refined a sword spirit. They had lost 3 middle Foundation establishment realm cultivators to heavily injure him, but they never thought that he would be saved by the sword spirit at the critical moment. This sword spirit was a bit strange, so he did not dare try it. So he took out the passage tokens to tempt Yun Jioge, wanting to use them to obtain the sword spirit. Alright, then you can take it. Yun Jioge formed a seal, and the evil blade instantly condensed into a blood-red long blade that slashed at the small cultivator on the left. The Lu sisters also targeted a tall, thin, and elegant Foundation establishment realm cultivator. They controlled the Overlord flower and pounced forward. The middle-aged cultivator never thought that Yun Jioge and the others would dare to attack. He was shocked and angry as he shouted, "You're courting death." He raised his blood-wind sword and was about to attack, but he discovered that a gray aura of death had appeared out of nowhere. It stuck to his blood-wind sword and stabbed into the chest of his comrade. His comrade subconsciously released his magic weapon to block it, but it was also guided by the aura of death and stabbed into his opponent's chest. The middle-aged cultivator's eyes widened as he looked at his comrade. Even when he died, he did not understand what had happened. Zhishang curled his finger and put away their magic weapons, storage bags, and passage tokens. Then he watched Yun Jioge and the others fight. Yun Jioge fought very smoothly against the Foundation establishment realm cultivators who were a level higher than him. The evil blade appeared and disappeared like a ghost, and from time to time he would use the devouring spirit bloodlust skill. On the other hand, the thin Foundation establishment realm cultivator was worried and anxious about his comrade's death, so he made many mistakes and was quickly suppressed by Yun Jioge. The Lu sisters fought steadily. Lu Tian'er did not even activate her 9 Hell Dao body. She only controlled the Overlord flower to attack with her sister. The Overlord flower had devoured the flesh and blood of a few Middle Foundation establishment realm cultivators during this period of time. It did not have time to properly absorb the energy stored in its body, so it was initially suppressed by the thin Foundation establishment realm cultivator. But as the fight progressed, the energy was mobilized by the 2 cores and flowed quickly in its body. Finally, it turned into a thick red light and formed the image of a tall ape behind it. Chapter 381. The Lu sisters also noticed the change in the Overlord flower's form. Overjoyed, they cooperated even more smoothly. Roar. The Overlord flower's demon eye discovered the opponent's weakness. It opened its mouth and spat out a red light as thick as an arm. It finally killed the opponent. At the same time, Yun Jioge's evil sword cut off the opponent's head. Ever since Evil Sword killed the Lizardman family, it loved chopping off people's heads. Yun Jioge could not stop it. Evil Sword sucked its prey dry in satisfaction. Then it lazily flew back into Yun Jioge's storage bag. The Overlord flower also began to eat happily. Yun Jioge turned to look at Wanli Mingxian. He wanted to help him check, but he was afraid that the sword spirit would go crazy. Although the sword spirit was invisible, the small black sword was still hovering above Wanli Mingxian in a defensive posture. What do we do? Yun Jioge asked Zhishang, who also liked to be invisible. This sword spirit is very conscious. If you show her kindness, she will know. Zhishang was highly reliant on this sword spirit. Alright, I'll try. Yun Jioge looked at the small black sword nervously and tried his best to show his good intentions. I'm Wanli Mingxuan's friend. He's severely injured right now. I have to examine him before I can treat his injuries. Can you let me go over? The small black sword did not budge. He's bleeding. He needs some medicine and stitches. Yun Jioge took out the blood-staunching elixir and showed it to the small black sword. The small black sword actually flew over and circled around. It seemed to recognize the blood-staunching elixir. The tip of the sword moved up and down. Step by step, Yun Jioge slowly walked toward Wanli Mingxian. The small black sword allowed Yun Jioge to walk to Wanli Mingxuan's side. However, the tip of the sword was pointed at her. It looked like it would kill her if anything went wrong. Yun Jioge heaved a sigh of relief. Then she squatted down to check Wanli Mingxuan's body. She found that his body was covered in bloody holes. More than half of his blood had flowed out. Many of his wounds were covered in a cold aura. It was impressive that he could last until now. The cold aura was caused by the blood-sucking evil weapon. The evil weapon was of a very high grade. Normal pills could not remove it at all. However, Yun Jioge had the white-boned monkey which loved to eat Yin Qi. Senior Sword Spirit, I need to use the mystic Yin white-bone monkey to suck out the Yin spirit aura from Wanli Mingxuan's body. Otherwise, I won't be able to bandage his wounds. Yun Jioge took out the white-bone monkey and waved it in front of the black sword. The small black sword shook up and down, nodding in agreement. Only then did Yun Jioge wake up the skeleton monkey and let it work. The little skeleton monkey's soul flame glowed faintly and its lower jaw cracked. It seemed to be very unhappy. It had also been locked up in a small dark room for a long time. There was no Yin Qi and no benefits. There was no way for it to work for free unless it was given 2 bottles of Yin gathering pills. Yun Jioge looked at the little skeleton monkey's 2 little white paws and his veins twitched. In the end he still gave in. Fine. I'll give it to you. She didn't have the time to bargain with the little monkey. After eating the gathering Yin pill, the skeleton monkey happily shook its big head and started to work. The Yin spirit qi on Wanli Mingxuan's body slowly disappeared under the white-boned monkey's absorption. Yun Jioge took out the thunderfire needle and started to sew up the wounds on his body. Then she transferred pure wood spiritual qi into his body. Wanli Mingxuan's pale face finally regained some color. After drinking another bottle of spirit recovery pills, he finally woke up. Wanli Mingxian blinked his eyes. He looked at Yun Jioge and the Lu sisters behind her as though he didn't know where he was. There's no need to blink. You're still alive. Yun Jioge pointed at the sharp little black sword behind her and said to Wanli Mingxian, "Can you put it away first?" That killing intent pierced her back. "Sorry, it doesn't have any ill intentions towards you. It's just too worried about me." Wanli Mingxian hurriedly apologized. Then he turned his head and called out to the little black sword, "Mother." The little black sword flew back to his body. "Mother." Yun Jioge's mouth twitched and she said, "This sword of yours has a very special name. That sword's spirit is my mother." Wanli Mingxuan's face was still a little pale. Even sitting up from the ground was very difficult. Yun Jioge raised her eyebrows. Although she was a little curious, she didn't continue to ask about Wanli Mingxuan's privacy. Instead she asked, "How did you get in?" "I killed my way in." Wanli Mingxian laughed bitterly. They, the Foreign Foundation establishment cultivators, had also been tricked into an array formation and had almost become sacrifices to open the door. Later he suggested that everyone detonate their fire elemental dharma artifacts at the same time. Only then did they break through the array formation and enter the ruins. "Oh yes, I already know what the treasure of this mystic realm is. It's a demonic cauldron that can refine everything in the world." This was the information Wanli Mingxian had obtained from the soul of a middle ground cultivator. Demonic cauldron? Yun Jioge immediately thought of the bronze cauldron that had sneaked away with Mischievous. Could the two be related? That demonic cauldron is in the inner hall. We can enter if we pass the ruins test. However, I heard that apart from a group of mid-stage Foundation establishment cultivators, there are also 2 golden core cultivators who suppressed their cultivation to enter, Wanli Mingxian said solemnly. 2 golden core cultivators. Yun Jioge's heart couldn't help but tremble. Although Zishang's current cultivation level was similar to that of a golden core cultivator, he could protect her. It would be difficult for him to protect the Lu sisters and the heavily injured Wanli Mingxian. The Lu sisters' faces instantly turned pale. A golden core cultivator was like an insurmountable mountain to them. They couldn't even muster the courage to challenge it. "Is it too late to leave the ruins now?" Lu Mei'er asked nervously. Originally she wanted to kill the evil old monster with her own hands. Now that she thought about it, it was better to stay alive first. "If we want to leave the ruins, we can only go to the inner hall." Wanli Mingxian shook his head. His usually cheerful and handsome face was also filled with worry. He had originally thought that this was just a small ruins. With his strength and equipment, it would be a piece of cake for him to come in and fish out some treasures. He didn't expect the waters to be so deep. In the illusion, he had successfully defeated the monster. However, he didn't expect to encounter a group of middle ground cultivators not long after entering the maze. He was almost killed when they surrounded him. If he hadn't met Yunjioga and the others in time, he wouldn't have survived even with his mother's protection. Let's leave the maze first. It's best if we can reach the inner hall before those two golden core cultivators and find a way to leave the ruins. Yunjioga immediately made a decision. All right. The Lu sisters nodded repeatedly. They weren't interested in any treasures at the moment. The Overlord flower had eaten so many Foundation establishment cultivators with abundant spiritual energy in the middle ground. It was already a great deal. Wanli Mingxian didn't have any objections. He was seriously injured this time and had already lost the ability to fight for treasures. It would be good if he could leave alive. Chapter 382. Yunjioga distributed the passes to the Lu sisters and Wanli Mingxian, then fed them to the mouths on the blood wall. The blood-red wall shook violently after eating the pass, and a red passageway appeared on the wall. Yunjioga and the others entered one by one and finally left the maze. In the depths of the labyrinth, an old lady with a dragon head cane, wearing a luxurious robe and an emerald green spirit stone forehead cloth, was wandering around the labyrinth with a pretty girl. The old lady's surname was Sher, and people in Zhongzhou called her Old Lady Sher. She was at the early stage of Gold Core and her granddaughter Yuxia was at the middle stage of Foundation establishment. Grandmother, we haven't seen Uncle Meng and the others after walking for so long. Could something have happened to them? Yuxia's delicate and beautiful face was filled with worry. In order to enter the ruins, Grandma had taken a secret medicine that suppressed her cultivation. Now she was only at the high level of the building Foundation realm. It was not safe for her to have no helpers by her side. Elder Meng is a steady man. He won't get into trouble so easily. Besides, Old Demon One has also suppressed his cultivation like me. He won't dare to make a move recklessly. You don't have to worry too much. The old lady strolled along the passage with the help of her walking stick. She looked calm and steady. You're right, Grand Ancestor. Yuxia's heart calmed down slightly. However, he suddenly realized that the blood wall was emitting waves of intense fluctuations. The old lady, who had been calm and composed a moment ago, could not help but frown. Someone has entered the inner hall through the maze. Could it be someone from Old Devil Wan's side? Yuxia quickly asked. It's possible. The old lady nodded. This time it was mainly her and Old Devil Wan's people who entered the ruins. Then shouldn't we hurry up? Otherwise, it'll be troublesome if Old Demon One gets there first, Yuxia said anxiously. Silly girl, what's the rush? The old lady patted her granddaughter's hand affectionately and said in a teaching tone, So what if we let him enter the inner hall early? If that treasure was so easy to get, how could he have survived until today? We'd better find Elder Meng and the others according to the plan and enter the inner hall together. This is the safest way. The same question rang out from the other end of the maze. A tall man with red hair also suspected that old Madame Yu's men had entered the inner hall first. He maintained the thought of finding his subordinates first and continued to wander around the maze. The two Gold Core ancestors were not in a hurry to leave the maze, so Yunjioga and the others arrived at the inner hall safely. Under Zishang's guidance, they quickly found the teleportation array to leave the ruins. Because the Middle Continent cultivators hadn't caught up to them yet, Yunjioga and the others weren't in a hurry to leave. Instead, they wanted to get as much as they could before leaving. As he walked, he arrived at a large hall. In front of him was a red wilderness, and above his head was the vast night sky, filled with large patches of fiery clouds. Countless small stars were hidden within the fire cloud, emitting the unique glow of a top-grade magic artifact. However, the most eye-catching thing was the giant cauldron in the middle of the galaxy. It was pitch black and surrounded by fiery clouds. It occupied most of the sky. Without a doubt, it was the demonic cauldron. Is this the demonic tripod? The Lu sisters looked at the tripod in the sky excitedly. The ones beside the treasures were definitely not ordinary either. If he could pick one up, he would be rich. Moreover, they had already found the location of the transmission array, so if they grabbed a treasure and left, they wouldn't have to worry about being chased by those gold core old monsters. Wanli Mingxian looked at the cauldron, drooling. He couldn't help but say, "Should we go up and take a look?" "Yeah, even if we can't get it, it's good to see the world." The Lu sisters stared unblinkingly at the sky. Their entire attention was deeply attracted. Yunjioge looked at Zishang. To be honest, she was a little tempted too. "If you can fly up, you'll be lucky." Zishang didn't comment. He just looked like he was watching a good show. "Whoever wants to go up can go up and see for themselves. I'll protect you from below." Yunjioge thought it was better not to take the risk. "Let me try." Wanli Mingxian couldn't resist the temptation. He released his small black sword and wanted to fly up. Unexpectedly, after flying 2 meters, there was a huge suction from the ground. With a bang, he fell off the sword. The Lu sisters, who had wanted to try, turned green in the face. If he fell from the sky, he would be smashed into a meat patty. "Forget it, seems like I'm not destined to get rich." Wanli Mingxian climbed up from the ground with difficulty. He was already injured. Even though the fall wasn't heavy, it was still very painful. It was also because of this pain that he woke up from his infatuation with the treasure. Senior brother Wanli is right. Let's hurry up and leave. Otherwise we'll get greedy. The Lu sisters looked away from the light screen with difficulty. They regretted coming here. If they didn't see it, they wouldn't be hurt. If they left, it wouldn't be so painful. Then let's go. Yunjioge was very open-minded. If it was hers, it was hers. There was no point in stealing it. Because this small teleportation formation could only teleport one person at a time, the Lu sisters left first. Wanli Mingxian was next and Yunjioge was last. After teleporting out, we'll leave the central plains as quickly as possible. We'll meet up when we return to the Yin Sol mountain range. The 3 of them made an agreement before teleporting. Then they placed the spirit stones on the table and started the teleportation formation. The Lu sisters and Wanli Mingxian left successfully. Yunjioge was about to enter the teleportation formation when she was pulled back by Zishang. "We haven't taken the treasure yet. Where do you want to go?" "Ah." Yunjioge was a little stunned. Zishang had been indifferent to the treasures in the ruins. She had no chance. Those people are too burdensome. Yunjioge was a loyal person. He would never abandon them. That was why he found this teleportation formation to send them away. Now that the burdensome were gone, it was time to go all out. "What do you plan to do?" Yunjioge asked excitedly. Although she felt sorry for the Lu sisters and Wanli Mingxian, they were indeed a hindrance. "Take the treasure and destroy the ruins." Zishang's gray eyes flashed with a hint of ruthlessness. The words that came out of his thin lips were cold. Yunjioge shivered inexplicably. She looked at Zishang carefully and said, "Does the owner of the ruins have a grudge against you?" "How do you know?" Zishang narrowed his eyes. His expression was unfriendly. "I guessed. You look like you have a deep grudge. I can guess it even with my toes." Zishang looked Yunjioge up and down as if to confirm her words. "How did that guy offend you?" Yunjioge couldn't help but gossip. "Because he's cheap." Zishang's expression turned even colder. "Cheap." Yunjioge's mouth twitched. That was a really thought-provoking word. "Right, cut the crap. Take the treasure. Since that guy created the ruins, he had to destroy it." All right. Yunjioge expressed her agreement. Chapter 383. Since they were going to take the treasure, they naturally had to hide their identities. It would be troublesome if they were discovered. Therefore, Yunjioge disguised herself as the towering man Zishang had killed. If they were discovered, it would cause a civil war in the Central Plains. Zishang seemed to have gotten some inspiration. Purple light flashed and he turned into a middle-aged scholar. He held a ruler filled with evil spirits. It was the Lu sisters' enemy, the wicked old monster. Good move. Yunjioge gave a thumbs up. Even if the wicked old monster could leave the ruins alive, he would definitely be hunted to the ends of the earth. Let's go. Zishang saw that Yunjioge couldn't forget about the wicked old monster. He wanted to help her fulfill her wish. But for safety's sake, Zishang put on a black robe and stuck an advanced invisibility talisman on Yunjioge. Then he left the teleportation formation and returned to the Skyland. There were 2 groups of people standing in the center of the Skyland. Old Lady Sher was on the left, while Old Demon One was on the right. Old Demon One, we haven't taken the treasure yet. If we fight to the death now, won't it benefit others? Old Lady Shi's dragon-head walking stick emitted a black mist that enveloped her people. What do you plan to do? Old Demon One's red hair danced in the air. He held 2 fiery rings in his hands, emitting waves of heat. Even his people didn't dare to get close. We'll take turns and take the demonic tripod first. Old Lady Shi already had a plan. It belongs to whoever gets it? Old Demon One squinted his slightly red eyes. Even if I tell you that, you won't believe me. Let's take the demonic tripod first. It belongs to whoever gets it. Old Lady Shi didn't want to play tricks. Old Demon One wouldn't believe her anyway. Okay, we'll see after the demonic tripod comes down. Old Demon One agreed. They were all familiar with each other. Even if they couldn't fight in the ruins, they could fight outside. It was better than fighting to the end and getting nothing. In that case, you guys go first. Old Lady Shi said and retreated 10 feet with her people, giving Old Demon One the wilderness. Old Devil One didn't stand on ceremony and immediately got his subordinates into a defensive formation. Then he slapped his spirit beast bag and dozens of red shadows flew out, turning into various fire-type spirit beasts. There were 12 lizards in the outermost circle, 6 fire-striped snakes in the innermost circle, and a fire jade spider in the middle. It had a fiery red body, white slender legs and demon patterns clearly visible. It was actually a 5th-rank demon beast, close to the gold core stage. Go! Old Devil One ordered. The flame jade spider opened its mouth and ate all the offerings around it. Then it spat out countless rays of red and white light into the sky. When the light landed on the demonic tripod, it turned into a tough spider web and bound the tripod tightly. Pull! Old Devil One poured a bottle of fiery red pills into the fiery jade spider's mouth, and the fiery jade spider pulled the spider silk backwards. Waves of fluctuations came from the quiet sky. The fiery clouds were shattered and countless black flames fell down. Protect! Old Devil One threw out a fiery ring. It turned into a red halo that protected everyone's heads, swallowing all the falling black flames. The fiery jade spider retreated step by step. The huge demonic tripod shook violently and left the sky bit by bit. Grandmother. Yusha grew nervous. Granny Shi's lips curled up and she said softly, "It's not that simple." As soon as she said that, the rain of fire grew heavier. The halo's capacity was limited, so Old Devil One had to throw another one up. The fiery jade spider's body was blood red. It became more and more difficult to move back and the red and white spider silk tightened. Old Devil One was extremely nervous. He poured another bottle of pills into the fiery jade spider's mouth and forced it to continue retreating. The fiery jade spider retreated a few more steps with difficulty, but the red and white spider silk suddenly broke. The demonic tripod returned to the spear, shaking off countless red flames. The fiery jade spider wailed and lay on the ground motionlessly. It suffered a strong backlash and its organs were injured. It died instantly. Old Devil One looked at the demonic tripod with a livid expression. He had used a secret technique to make this fiery jade spider grow, but he still couldn't get the demonic tripod down. What a pity. Just a little bit more. Granny Shi sighed and shook her head. She really hoped that Old Devil One could get the demonic tripod down. That way she would have a better chance to snatch it. Old Devil One didn't say anything. He retreated to the side with his people and stared at Granny Shi. Granny Shi went up with her people and released 2 rainbow-colored silkworms. They were only level 4, but they were stronger than the fiery jade spider she had just matured. The rainbow-colored silkworms spat out 2 beams of rainbow light that wrapped around the demonic tripod. With one pull, the demonic tripod was pulled out of the sky. The sky shook and countless rain of fire fell crazily. Granny Shi and the others couldn't resist in time. Many were burned by the fire. Old Devil One, if you keep watching like this, you can forget about getting the demonic tripod forever. Granny Shi pretended to take back the rainbow-colored silkworms. Old Devil One hesitated. In the end, he felt that the demonic tripod was more important. He ordered his people to help Granny Shi and the others resist the rain of fire. Zishang and Yunjioga waited quietly on the side, waiting for a chance to attack. Just then, a childish voice sounded beside Yunjioga. "Master, is that you? You finally found me." "Master?" Yun Jioga had thought it was a treasure-seeking scorpion, but the voice was very clear and didn't sound like a treasure-seeking scorpion. Following that, her mind buzzed and her divine sense was pulled into darkness. Mistress. A chubby black-skinned mouse ran towards her from afar. Pippy Mouse, where did you go? Yun Jioga was about to go up. Pippy Mouse started to transform as it ran. In the end, it turned into a chubby, soft and cute 5-year-old baby. The baby was chubby and had soft black short hair. His skin was white and tender. He wore a fitted black suit and was very cute. However, there were 2 short horns on his head. Demon. Yun Jioga was so scared that she wanted to turn and run. Sob sob sob, master, don't abandon me. I'm not a demon. The baby rushed up and hugged Yun Jioga's thigh tightly. I'm your artifact spirit. Since when did I have a demonic artifact spirit? Yun Jioga said, but she still stopped running. When it came to treasures, she had always been very tolerant of them. Sob sob sob, I wasn't a demonic artifact. It's all that perverted Wuxia's fault. He refined me into a demonic artifact. The baby continued to cry. Wait, who is Wuxia? Yun Jioga frowned. Where did this person come from? Wuxia is a big bad guy. The little baby pouted his red lips and said fiercely, even if he used to be your lover, I still hate him. He dared to seal me in this damn place. It was not easy for me to run out with a bit of my divine sense and possess the black-skinned mouse to find you. Unfortunately, that black-skinned mouse was too weak and could not communicate with you. Wait, you said Wuxia was my lover. Then who is Zishang? Yun Jioga asked. Currently, Zishang was the only one she had an affair with. How did another Wuxia appear? Lord Zishang is your guardian. In the words of the human race, he's your wife. Wuxia is just your lover. The little guy's words were shocking. Yun Jioga was shocked. Chapter 384. What wife? What lover? What nonsense are you talking about? How dare he slander her reputation? She would beat him to death. I'm not talking nonsense. It's true. Wuxia, that pervert, couldn't find you, so he captured me and refined me into a demonic artifact. He even said that you would like me like this. So he must be lying. I'm a medicine puppet that you personally made. How could you dislike the old me? The little baby started crying again. Yun Jioga's head hurt from the baby's crying. Just as she was about to ask him more questions, her head buzzed and she regained consciousness. What's wrong? Zishang looked at Yun Jioga worriedly. Nothing. Yun Jioga couldn't tell Zishang that she'd met a child out of nowhere and said that the child was her wife and that she had a perverted lover. Zishang looked at her coolly and didn't continue asking. Instead, he pointed outside and said, they're about to succeed. There was a rain of fire outside and all kinds of spirit lights flashed. Madame Shi and Old Demon One stood at one side and focused on driving the spirit beasts. At the crucial moment, Old Demon One had released a fire jade spider to pull the demonic sky tripod with Madame Shi. The demonic sky tripod had been pulled out of the sky. The color pattern was very similar to Yun Jioga's bronze tripod, but it looked more advanced. Yun Jioga immediately threw the strange baby to the back of his mind and prepared to attack. Zishang's fake ruler glowed faintly. He was already aiming at the demonic sky tripod. At this time, the demonic sky tripod suddenly spat out countless sparks and broke free. Then it turned and leaped towards Yun Jioga. Yun Jioga's eyes widened as he looked at the round little cauldron, which was glowing with a fiery light. Then the little cauldron pounced at him with an expression as if it had found its baby. Zishang reached out and grabbed the tripod. The remaining sparks broke the invisibility talisman on Yun Jioga. Even Zishang was revealed. Yun Jioga was stunned. He'd wanted to be an Oriole but had been exposed early. Wouldn't he become a target? Madame Shi and Old Demon One looked in shock at the 2 black-robed people who suddenly appeared in the corner of the screen. Demonic tripod. Wuxia screamed. An ominous glint flashed across Granny Shi's eyes. She slammed her walking stick down hard and a black flood dragon soul flew out, bearing its fangs and claws at Yun Jioga. Zishang tossed out the disciplinary ruler in his hand and a purple mist burst forth to bind the black WM. Next he picked up Yun Jioga and ran toward the teleportation portal. The black flood dragon seemed to be extremely afraid of the purple mist. It shivered and flew back into Granny Shi's walking stick. Old Lady Shi was shocked. She used a real flood dragon which was incomparably strong and sharp. How could it be scared away by a mere purple mist? How was this possible? Put those things down. Old Devil Wan roared as he threw out the 2 red rings in his hands. His rings had just absorbed a large amount of fire rain, turning into 2 dark red fireballs that were incomparably ferocious. The surging heat waves caused the air to distort. Xianxia didn't even turn his head. 2 purple spirit arrows shot at the dark red fireball, and 2 clouds of purple mist burst out to block the attack. Old Devil One was infuriated too. He made a hand seal and detonated the 2 dark red fireballs. The violent, huge, and terrifying shockwaves caused the entire inner hall to tremble. Xianxia held Yunjioga and turned around, holding her tightly in his arms. The powerful shockwaves broke through Xianxia's protective purple mist, sending him and Yunjioga flying. "Zishang, are you okay?" Yunjioga wasn't hurt by the shockwaves, but she could feel the terrifying power. Zishang wiped away the blood at the corner of his mouth. Without a word, he carried Yunjioga and rushed into the teleportation portal. Yunjioga placed the spirit stones on it as fast as she could. The portal lit up. By the time Granny Sher and Old Devil One brought people over, the portal was already empty. On a barren mountain 50 miles away from Middle Ground, Yunjioga walked out of the teleportation portal weakly. Zishang followed behind him holding the demonic tripod. He turned around and destroyed the portal. "This is the treasure from the ruins?" Yunjioga looked at the bronze tripod in Zishang's hand. "Yes." Zishang nodded and said, "There's a space for growing herbs inside. In the future, if you want to detoxify, you can cultivate your own herbs." Yunjioga's eyes lit up. The 9-stage bone shatter poison in her body was like a chain wrapped around the wound on her neck. If she could remove this chain, her cultivation would definitely be faster. But how did Zishang know there was a space inside the demonic tripod? "Master it." Zishang tossed the bronze tripod to Yunjioga. There was no joy on his handsome face. Dad, it was cold. Yunjioga hesitated. "This is the demonic tripod. Will it hurt me?" "No, it won't hurt you." Though Zishang looked very familiar with the tripod, he didn't say anything else. He just told Yunjioga to make him master. Alright. Yunjioga thought of the cute baby she'd met in the ruins. Perhaps it could give her an answer. So she bit her finger and dripped blood onto the bronze demonic tripod. The demonic tripod flashed. It couldn't wait to recognize her as its master. Yunjioga's sea of consciousness entered the demonic tripod. What she saw was a vast field. A spirit spring surrounded it and the spirit chi was very rich. "Master, I knew that you would save me." A child's voice sounded. Then the horned baby appeared before Yunjioga. "It's really you." Yunjioga pursed her lips. Honestly, she didn't have a good impression of it. "Master, I'm your most loyal artifact spirit. How can you dislike me?" The baby sensed Yunjioga's displeasure. He pouted and was about to cry again. "Stop crying." Yunjioga's head hurt when she heard him cry. She quickly asked, "Do you know Zishang?" "Of course, I'm just sealed, not destroyed." The little baby pouted, looking insulted. "How do you know him?" Yunjioga asked again. "Because you know him, of course." The baby tilted his head, looking innocent. "Then how do you know me?" "Of course, it's because you are my master." The little cute baby blinked his eyes. Wasn't it a matter of course to know his own master? "I don't know you at all. How can I be your master?" Yunjioga immediately felt a headache. Was the way she asked the wrong question, or was the baby an idiot? "Master, you lost your memory after reincarnating. It's normal that you can't recognize me." The baby finally gave an answer that Yunjioga was interested in. Chapter 385. Reincarnation. "Do you mean that I was your master in my previous life?" Yunjioga continued to ask. "It can't be my previous life." The little baby counted his fingers and said with some uncertainty, "It seems like it was 10,000 years ago or 5,000 years ago. It's too long, I don't remember." Something that happened 10,000 years ago. Yunjioga couldn't even remember what happened before she transmigrated, let alone the history from so long ago. "Yes, Master used to be very powerful. Everyone was afraid of you." The little baby had a face of nostalgia. Then he touched the little black horn on his head dejectedly and said hatefully, "If it was in the past, Wansha definitely wouldn't dare to bully me like this." "Who is Wansha?" "Don't talk about lover anymore." I want specific information, identity, age, appearance and cultivation. Yunjioge thought of Zishang saying that the owner of the ruins was his enemy. Could it be this Wan Sha? I can't say. Wan Sha set up a restriction unless you can remove his restriction. The little baby looked pitifully at his extremely weak master in front of him. If it wasn't for the fact that the aura was very familiar and the taste of the blood was very pure, he really couldn't believe that his master, who was once so powerful that all races were afraid of him, would actually be so weak. The chi refinement stage was even weaker than an ant. His poor master. Then I'll go ask Zishang. Yunjioge had already developed the habit of looking for Zishang whenever he didn't understand anything. Don't. You must not mention Wan Sha in front of Lord Zishang. He will go crazy and kill people. Maybe he won't even let you go. The little baby was so scared that his face turned pale and his hair stood up. How is that possible? Zishang would kill her? What kind of joke was this? Please, which man is willing to share his beloved woman with others? You're so weak now. Lord Zishang can strangle you with one finger. Don't look for trouble. The little baby was really anxious. His voice was as sharp as a hen that was being strangled. He was a little hysterical. Did I really have an affair with that Wan Sha in the past? Yunjioge looked suspiciously at the adorable little baby. In her heart, Zishang was perfect, domineering, strong and fierce. Which man could pass over him to seduce her? The little baby was probably stimulated by Yunjioge's gaze. He stamped his feet and shouted, not just Wan Sha. Master used to have a lot of lovers, okay? The human clan, the monster clan, the beast clan, the spirit clan, the devil clan. How is this possible? Yunjioge's eyes widened. Even if she was the founder of the Joyous Union sect in her past life, it was impossible for her to sleep with all the races in the world. It's true. Master, you used to be the continent's most valiant and honorable goddess. Every race had to offer you their most powerful and charming male. Lord Zishang is the strongest male among all the races. You admire him the most and even conferred him the title of guardian. When the little baby talked about the glorious deeds of his master in the past, his little chest immediately puffed up as if he was proud of it. Yunjioge was now sure that this cute little kid must have recognized the wrong owner. What goddess? What lover? What offering from men? It was all a mess. Based on Zishang's attitude towards her in the past, it was more like she was his tribute. Yunjioge was completely disappointed with the little baby. She decisively changed the topic and asked the little baby, I heard that the space here can grow spiritual objects? Yes. Master, you used to like alchemy and medicine the most, so you specially made a medicine garden. As long as there is enough spiritual power to support it, it can accelerate the growth of plants. The little baby immediately nodded. Later, I will bring in a few dark spirit flowers. You can take a look at me. Yunjioge needed not only the soul-shocking grass but also 100-years-old dark spirit flower to get rid of the third layer of poison. The little baby patted his chest, indicating that there was no problem. After being sealed for so long, he finally got the attention of his master. He must do a good job. By the way, what's your name? Yunjioge still didn't know the little baby's name. My name is Menghua. This is the name that master personally gave me. The little baby pouted, feeling sad that his master had forgotten his name. Although this name was very similar to her style of naming, she would never admit that she was its lecherous owner based on this point alone. Master Zishang is calling you. Go out now. Remember, don't mention Wan Sha's name, the little baby quickly said. Yunjioge didn't deny it. Her divine consciousness left the demonic tripod and returned to her body. As soon as she opened her eyes, she saw Zishang right in front of her. He was observing her without blinking, his hot breath on her face. What are you doing? Yunjioge was shocked and subconsciously stepped back. Zishang grabbed her waist and let go after stabilizing her. He asked casually, You were in the demonic tripod for so long. What did you ask? I just chatted with the artifact spirit inside. Yunjioge thought of little Menghua's advice. In the end, he did not ask about Wan Sha. Instead, he tactfully said, that artifact spirit was chubby and quite cute. I forgot to ask what its name was. Zishang looked at Yunjioge deeply and said, It's called Menghua. Although it's a bit stupid, it's quite loyal to you. Holy *T, Zishang really knew that artifact spirit. Yunjioge laughed dryly. Menghua is quite suitable for him. Let's go. There's more than one teleportation array in the ruins. Those 2 golden core cultivators will escape. Let's get out of here. Xianxia clearly didn't want to discuss this. His handsome face was gloomy. Yunjioga thought of old Demon Wan's crazy look and felt that they wouldn't let her go. She walked to Xianxia's side and smelled a faint smell of blood. She quickly reached out to pull him. Are you hurt? Don't touch me. Xianxia reflexively dodged Yunjioga's hand. Seeing Yunjioga's shocked expression, he added, I'm fine. He just suddenly remembered something bad. Although it had been a long time, thinking about it still made him feel pain. Oh, it's good. Yunjioga nodded randomly. She didn't even know how to look at Xianxia. Could it be that what the little baby said was true? Had she really scummed Xianxia in her previous life and gotten a bunch of lovers? But that was in her previous life. If he had the ability, he should have transmigrated back to deal with that scum. Why was he venting his anger on her in this life? Yunjioga thought of the first time she met Xianxia. His flirtatious look was because he thought of her as his lover in her previous life. That was why he had teased and touched her. Now that he realized that she was different from the lover in her previous life, he regretted it and became cold. Damn, if that was the case, she was the scum. Chapter 386. Deep in the ruins, Old Demon Wan and Old Lady Shi stared at the teleportation formation. No, the people over there have already destroyed the teleportation formation. Wuxia squatted down to check the teleportation formation and shook her head. Did you see who those 2 men in black were? Old Demon Wan said through gritted teeth. I think they were 2 middle-aged men. I've seen that ruler before. It belongs to an evil old monster from Yinling Mountains. They're at the middle stage of the foundation building realm, someone said immediately. Find him as soon as we get out. Old Demon Wan wanted to kill them. Old Lady Shi gave the same order and parted ways with Old Demon Wan with her granddaughter, Wuxia. Grandmother, are we just going to leave like this? Wuxia was unwilling. They had spent so much effort to open the ruins and many of their men had died. It would be a great loss if they were to return empty-handed. The Savage Corp's secret realm was about to open. She was hoping to get a few treasures to protect herself. Silly girl, the demonic cauldron is gone, but there are other treasures. Let's split up and search carefully. We might find something. Old Lady Shi did not believe that she could not find other treasures in such a huge ruin. Then let's hurry up and search before Old Demon One gets there first. Wuxia was an impatient person. She brought a few men and split up with her grandmother. She searched along the ruins but found nothing. The ruins were empty, as if it had been swept by locusts. It was so desolate that it was frightening. Wuxia's pretty face was flushed with anger. She kept cursing the owner of the ruins for being a stingy person. Just then, a deep and seductive voice rang in her ears. Come here, come here. Wuxia was in a daze. She could not help but follow the voice. After passing through a long corridor, she finally arrived at a hidden room. In the dark room there was a stone statue of a devil of the same height. It had horns like a sheep, black curly hair like seaweed, and its long and narrow eyes were pitch black. Its sexy lips were tightly pursed. Its body was strong and majestic, covered in black scales. It exuded an evil and powerful aura. At that moment, the devil statue's eyes were shining with a strange light. Wuxia looked at the devil's eyes that were filled with magic and walked towards it. The devil statue's lips curled up, its expression extremely evil. When Wuxia was in front of it, the statue suddenly collapsed. A thick black aura rushed into Wuxia's forehead. Wuxia shuddered and could not help but close her eyes. When she opened her eyes again, her pupils were pitch black like a bottomless lake, flickering with the light of magic. Goddess, I've waited for 5,000 years and I've finally found you again. Wuxia murmured to herself as the corners of her rosy lips curled into a devilish smile. Her beautiful and delicate face was covered in a layer of black light. There was a strangeness in her beauty that made one shudder. At that moment, Yunjioga and Xianxia were hurrying along. Are you hurt or are you feeling unwell? Xianxia looked at Yunjioga's listless appearance and couldn't help but care about her. You weren't injured, so how could I have been injured? Yunjioga's face was cold and he didn't even look at him. Xianxia knew Yunjioga was throwing a tantrum. After a moment of silence, he said, I'm really fine. Those critical hits were nothing to me. Since you're fine, do you dare to let me have a look? Yunjioge stopped in his tracks. His black eyes were bright and determined. All right. Zishang gave in. Moreover, the sky was already dark and he should find a place to rest. He found a secluded cave and set up a simple defensive formation before checking Yunjioge's pulse. Yunjioge's expression was solemn as he focused on checking Zishang's pulse. He immediately discovered that his pulse was very chaotic and his body had clearly suffered a huge blow. Yet he said he was fine. Take off your clothes. Yunjioge's face was stern as he took out the thunderfire needles to perform acupuncture on him. Zishang didn't move as he stared straight at Yunjioge. What, are you afraid that I'll rape you? Yunjioge raised his brows. Although he was still wearing a disguise on his face, the domineering aura emanated from his bones. It was as if he was going to strip Zishang of his clothes if he didn't agree. If it was in the past, Zishang would have teased Yunjioge a little when he heard him acting like a hooligan. Now, however, he took off his clothes without a word, revealing his well-defined, perfect body. His back was filled with red marks that looked like pits. Those were the fire poison left behind by old Demon Wan's ring of fire. Yunjioge's heart ached. After inserting the needles into Zishang's body, she injected spirit energy to force the fire poison out. However, Zishang was now at the golden core stage while she was only at the 7th stage of qi refinement. Why was she so weak? Yunjioge felt defeated for the first time. Don't be sad, I'm fine. Zishang stood up slightly and turned to comfort Yunjioge. His eyes were filled with gentleness. Which eye of yours saw that I'm sad? Lie down. Yunjioge pressed Zishang back and continued to insert needles into him. Circulate your spirit energy according to the order of my needles and force the fire poison out together. Zishang didn't make a sound. Actually, his body was strong. Even if he ignored this injury, it would be forced out sooner or later. However, Yunjioge was obviously in a bad mood. Zishang tactfully didn't continue to provoke her. Instead, he began to circulate his spirit energy according to her instructions. A little red fire poison was forced out. When it dripped onto the floor, it immediately emitted a faint white smoke. Yunjioge's face was tense as if she was angry with someone. The thunder fire needles were fast and accurate. The 2 tender green leaves on her body also emitted a faint green light. They followed behind the thunder fire needles to repair themselves. In less than the time it took to burn a stick of incense, Zishang had forced all the fire poison out. That strong and broad back returned to its original state. His white jade-like skin glowed with a moist light. It made people want to touch it just by looking at it. Yunjioge knew how smooth and soft Zishang's skin was. It was like fine silk. Touching it was simply a pleasure. She couldn't help but want to reach out, but she heard Zishang's muffled voice. Are you done? Oh, I'm done. Yunjioge came back to her senses. She suddenly felt a little disdainful of herself. In the past, when Zishang opened his arms for her to touch, she didn't cherish it. Now that she was drooling, it was already too late. Thank you. Zishang got up and put on his clothes. His gray hair fell on his handsome face. There was a sense of alienation and indifference. The thunder fire needles in Yunjioge's hand paused. She looked up at him. There was a hidden bitterness in her tone that even she didn't notice. You never said thank you in the past. Zishang looked down and said, that was because I wasn't polite before. I ask for your forgiveness. Forgiveness, my ass. What's wrong with you? Why are you acting so strange? If you have any dissatisfaction with me, then just say it. Yunjioge was angry. I just feel that I was too disrespectful to you before. It's not good, I'm sorry. Zishang's expression was still indifferent. With his gray hair and gray eyes, he looked as cold as a Een corpse. Chapter 387. Sorry, my ass. Yunjioge almost broke the lightning fire needle in her hand. She couldn't hold back the fire in her heart anymore. She grabbed Zishang's collar and said, I'll say it here today. The previous life is the previous life and this life is this life. Even if I let you down in my previous life, you can't blame this on me. Anyway, she definitely wouldn't take the blame for something she didn't do. You remember? Zishang looked a little nervous. His pupils had turned purple. No, it was the little baby who told me. Just as Yunjioge shook her head, the little baby's screams rang out in her mind. Master, how can you betray me? I will be killed by Lord Zishang. Yunjioge ignored the little baby and stared at Zishang. She had to make things clear to him. Zishang sighed slightly. His light purple eyes stared straight at Yunjioge and said seriously, "You didn't let me down. Not in the past and not now. Then why are you still so weird?" Yunjioge frowned. Could the little baby have lied to her? She wasn't a scumbag in her previous life. "Master, I didn't lie to you. You really have a lot of people to invite." The little baby continued to scream. "Shut up." Yunjioge shouted at the little baby. The little baby immediately didn't dare to make a sound. "Because you were too powerful in the past. I'm afraid you'll remember what happened in the past and hit me. So from today onwards you have to be an honest demon." Zishang suddenly smiled. He had the cunning and evil look from before. "I don't need to remember what happened in the past. I can hit you now." Yunjioge punched Zishang. Zishang's handsome face scrunched up and he cooperated with a pained expression. "Keep pretending." Yunjioge couldn't help but punch him again. Zishang didn't resist. There was a doting smile on his light red lips. His gaze was very gentle and there was a trace of sadness. It was as if he was looking through her. Yunjioge felt uncomfortable. She wanted to punch him to death. However, it was too difficult. Yunjioge thought about it and held Zishang's face. She said seriously and persistently, "No matter what I was like in my previous life, in this life, if you don't abandon me, I will live and die with you." Zishang was stunned. He looked deeply into Yunjioge's eyes as if he wanted to see into her heart. Yunjioge did not dodge. Ever since she transmigrated to this body, Zishang had always been by her side, protecting her, teaching her cultivation and thinking of her. Although Zishang was so hateful that people wanted to beat him to death, he was still very reliable most of the time. Yunjioge did not know if this was love. She only knew that she hated it when Zishang looked at others through her, not even her past self. She wanted to monopolize this hateful male demon both physically and mentally. "All right, if you don't abandon me, I will be by your side in life and death." Zishang nodded. His eyes curved and his handsome face shone like a peach blossom. It was like a wisp of spring breeze that blew into Yunjioge's heart. After Yunjioge relaxed, he immediately felt extremely exhausted. He could barely keep his eyes open. She slowly lay down beside Zishang, yawning as she said, "Remember what you said. In the future you're not allowed to think about anyone else other than me, not even my past life." As she spoke, her voice gradually became deeper and deeper, and she instantly entered the land of dreams. Zishang carefully held Yunjioge in his arms. He touched her face with his palm and revealed her true appearance. Beautiful and exquisite features, a pure and holy aura. She looked very much like she did in her past life. This woman had not awakened her memory, but she was still as domineering as before. When she burned, it was like a raging fire that could melt a person in an instant. And he still could not reject her. No, the two of them were still very different. In her past life, she was the only goddess in the world. She was omnipotent, domineering, and emotionless. She viewed outsiders as ants, and no one could leave a mark on her cold heart. In this life, Yunjioge's cultivation was weak, and she had a stubborn personality. She was a little silly and a little soft. She was a person who cared a lot about her friends, and she was indebted to everyone who left a mark in her heart. "No matter what you look like, I will always love you forever." Zishang's light red lips pressed lightly on Yunjioge's smooth forehead, and there was a resolute light in the depths of his eyes. He had used all his luck to find her in front of everyone. In this life he would definitely not give her to anyone. When Yunjioge woke up, she felt refreshed. Just as she raised her head, Zishang planted a gentle kiss on her lips and said, "Good morning." "Morning." Yunjioge wrapped her arms around Zishang's neck and kissed him back passionately. After the Cold War and awkwardness from before, she especially cherished Zishang's clinginess now. "Let's dual cultivate." Zishang's nimble fingers unbuttoned Yunjioge's clothes and slid across her smooth skin. Yunjioge was also very enthusiastic and proactive. She had long been thinking about Zishang's strong abdominal muscles. It had been a long time since she touched them and she really missed them. The two of them were very cooperative and proactive. Although it was only a very ordinary frontal position, the effects of dual cultivation were much smoother than before. Although Zishang was not able to release himself in the end, the two of them were incomparably satisfied when their minds intertwined. It was completely in the realm of spiritual and physical intertwining. After a hearty dual cultivation session, Yunjioge realized that she had advanced again. She was now at Qi Refinement Stage 8. When you get rid of the poison in your dantian, you will advance even faster in the future. Zhishang reached out and touched Yunjioge's flat stomach. Previously, he was not very concerned about Yunjioge's detoxification. This was because he was worried that Yunjioge's cultivation would advance and unlock the seal in her mind. When she remembered everything in the past, would she abandon him again? But now he was willing to believe in Yunjioge. When the poison in her body was completely removed, he had to have a child with her. Only then could she completely belong to him. By the way, the dark serene grass in the demonic tripod has already grown. We're just waiting for the Lu sisters' soul-shocking grass. Yunjioge gave the little baby a batch of spirit stones and quickly ripened the 300-year-old dark serene grass. Calculating the time, the soul-shocking grass should be ripe soon. He had to get rid of the poison in his body as soon as possible. There was still a fiend corpse mystic realm waiting for him at the Een corpse sect. Then go ask them for it. Zhishang carried Yunjioge and helped her put on her clothes. Ever since the two had confessed their feelings, Zhishang's attitude towards her had changed a lot. He was more intimate and doting. He also liked to take care of her. He even had to do things like putting on her clothes himself. Seeing that he was happy, Yunjioge let him be. She was happy to slack off. After putting on her clothes, she took out the communication talisman and found that the Lu sisters and Wanli Mingxian had sent her many messages. They kept asking if she was safe. Yunjioge first replied to the Lu sisters and asked where they were. The Lu sisters quickly replied. They were in a workshop in Zhuozhou. Chapter 388. The left prefecture workshop was not far from here. Yunjioge and Zhishang only spent 4 hours to arrive at the left prefecture. After she agreed on a meeting place with the Lu sisters, Zhishang remained by her side, invisible. Senior brother Yunjioge, it's great that you are fine. The Lu sisters were very excited to see Yunjioge. After they left the teleportation array, they had been waiting nearby. However, after waiting for a day and a night, Yunjioge still did not appear. He thought that something had happened to her. I came out right after you guys. However, due to some matters I was delayed. Sorry for making you guys worry. Yunjioge smiled. Because she didn't want the Lu sisters to guess that she was in the ruins, she was worried about how to explain her delayed appearance. She didn't expect that the transmission array had several exits, and the 3 of them appeared in different places. It's good that you're all right. The Lu sisters shook their heads. How's the cultivation of the soul-shocking grass? Yunjioge asked Lu Tian'er. It seems to have matured. Lu Tian'er took out the small flower pot from her storage bag. The soil inside had turned dark, and the soul-shocking grass in the middle no longer had a frightened little face. Instead, it had a complete body, and it even had Lu Tian'er's Hades Taoist form. This is the first time I've seen such a soul-shocking grass in my life. What does senior brother plan to do with it? Lu Tian'er was also very curious about this thing and wanted to test its screaming ability. However, when she remembered that this treasure belonged to Yunjioge, she didn't dare to touch it. If it was damaged, he couldn't afford to pay for it. I plan to use it to detoxify the poison, Yunjioge said. Actually, after absorbing Lu Tian'er's netherworld Tao physique, this soul-shocking grass could be used to cultivate a grassine corpse. Zhishang was after all a fake Een corpse. The methods Yunjioge learned in the Een corpse sect could not be used on him. Because Yunjioge didn't like corpses, Zhishang thought about it and finally came up with the idea of using soul-shocking grass to cultivate Een corpses. Although it would take a long time, if he could successfully cultivate it, he would have a grass corpse that was even more powerful than a living corpse. I see. Lu Tian'er didn't suspect anything. After all, Yunjioge's corpse poison face was well known in the Een corpse sect. Even a Een spirit master couldn't remove it, so it was normal for him to use some strange herbs. Your netherworld Taoist body has been used to feed my soul-shocking grass. I don't have anything good to give you. You 2 sisters can take this cultivation method and practice it. Yunjioge gave the Lu sisters a copy of the secret method of twin girls. This cultivation technique was most suitable for the twins who had a telepathic connection. Not only could they achieve twice the results with half the effort, but they could also master a very powerful combined attack skill. The Lu sisters were wild with joy when they received this cultivation technique. This was especially so for Lu Tian'er. After losing the netherworld Taoist body, she always felt insecure and was afraid that she would drag her sister down. This technique was definitely a timely help. What are your plans now? Yunjioge asked the Lu sisters. We plan to find a place to go into seclusion and wait for the Overlord flower to advance. The Lu sisters had been discussing this matter for the past few days. The incident at the ruins had made them fully aware of the fact that it was pointless to go anywhere without strength. If it wasn't for Yunjioge protecting them, they would have died in the ruins long ago. It's good to go into seclusion and avoid the limelight. When Xianxia was fighting for the treasure, he disguised himself as an evil old monster. When the people of the central state ran to find the evil old monster, Yunjioge was worried that the two sisters would be implicated. I heard from senior brother Wanli that the central state is very chaotic now. It's better for us to stay as far away as possible. Lu Mei nodded. At this time, Lu Tianer thought of another matter. Oh right, senior brother Yunjio, do you know that senior brother Wanli is the young master of the Myriad Treasure Tower? Turns out that he's the Myriad Treasure Tower's young master. I was wondering why a mere foundation establishment cultivator like him would have such a flashy outfit, even bringing out a sword spirit. Yunjioge came to a sudden realization. Senior brother Wanli is now in the left prefecture's workshop. Senior brother Yunjio, go find him and get a black card. In the future you can buy things at the Myriad Treasure Tower at 30% off. The Lu sisters immediately got a black card the day they saw through his identity. Okay, I'll go find him now. After saying goodbye to the Lu sisters, Yunjioge walked toward the left prefecture's workshop. However, she wasn't in a hurry to find Wanli Mingxian. Instead, she started walking around the workshop with Xianxia. She wanted to see if there were any suitable spirit herb seeds to plant in the demonic tripod. The space inside the demonic tripod was open now, but there were still very few things inside. They had to buy a lot. Xianxia was still invisible next to Yunjioge, but he held her hand as they walked. This behavior was a bit annoying, but Yunjioge liked it, so Xianxia accompanied her. Yunjioge felt that holding Xianxia's hand was very romantic, so she had a lot of fun. Shopping was secondary. When they passed by a small stall, Xianxia suddenly pulled her and said, "The couple 200 meters to the left is Jin Chuan and Si Yue." Jin Chuan and Si Yue? Yunjioge's eyes widened. She looked at the two unfamiliar figures in disbelief. One was an old man and the other was a pretty granddaughter. If Xianxia hadn't reminded her, she definitely wouldn't have recognized them. Why are these two here? Yunjioge had suspected their relationship when she was in Corpse Sect. Unfortunately, Jin Chuan covered it up very well. He never asked about Si Yue again, so she couldn't find anything. Follow them, Xianxia ordered softly. Jin Chuan and Si Yue had high status in Corpse Sect. If she could get something on them, it would be very good for Yunjioge's position in Corpse Sect. Yunjioge thought so too, so she pulled Xianxia along and quietly followed behind the two of them. Jin Chuan and Si Yue were very vigilant. The two walked around the workshop until it was dark before they quietly left. They walked to the wasteland in the suburbs. Yunjioge and Xianxia followed them quietly. Finally, they arrived at a dilapidated temple 200 miles away. At this time, there was a defensive restriction around the temple. Many talismans could be seen shining inside. Those are the talismans of Purple Cloud Sect, Xianxia whispered to Yunjioge. Previously, when he and Yunjioge were killing Bloodthirsty Sect, they had interacted with the elite disciples of Purple Cloud Sect for a period of time. They were very familiar with their talismans. Why did Jin Chuan and Si Yue come here to meet Purple Cloud Sect disciples in the middle of the night? Yunjioge frowned. Corpse Sect and Purple Cloud Sect were mortal enemies. Let's go and see. Xianxia pulled Yunjioge's hand and silently went to the top of the dilapidated temple. The light of the talismans couldn't stop the destruction of Xianxia's demonic power. He stretched out his finger and poked a small round hole in the roof. They could clearly see what was inside. Yunjioge stuck close to Xianxia and looked into the round hole. She was instantly shocked. Chapter 389. What did you see? Xianxia looked at Yunjioge's round eyes and couldn't help but pull her ear. Help me see if that person is Nangong Li. Yunjioge pointed at the small round hole, worried that she had seen wrongly. It's him, he's already at the middle stage of Foundation Establishment realm. Xianxia recognized him at a glance. When they swept through the Bloodthirsty Sect, Nan Gongli was only at the peak stage of qi refinement. He didn't expect his cultivation to improve so quickly. How did they get together? Jin Chuan, Siyue, Nan Gongli, these three didn't seem to match. Keep watching. Zishang hugged Yunjioga and started watching the show. Inside the ruined temple, Nan Gongli was dressed in black, his handsome face cold, and he still had an unapproachable look. Jin Chuan and Siyue stood in front of him and cupped their hands at the same time. Subordinate came late, please forgive us, young master. No worries, Nan Gongli said indifferently, then looked at Siyue and said, you recovered your memory? Siyue immediately knelt on one knee and said to Nan Gongli guiltily, subordinate is useless. Before going to Yin Corp's sect, I was amnesiac and almost ruined young master's plan. Fortunately, big brother Jin Chuan helped me recover my memory in time. Please punish me, young master. Hearing this, Yunjioga was shocked again. She didn't expect Siyue and Jin Chuan to be from the Purple Cloud sect. No wonder Jin Chuan saved Siyue. You didn't do it on purpose. Fortunately, it was a blessing in disguise and you successfully infiltrated Yin Corp's sect. You've been in Yin Corp's sect for so long, have you found the whereabouts of my aunt? Nan Gongli asked again. It's confirmed that Miss Yu should be hidden by Zhou Xian in the forbidden area, Siyue replied cautiously. Hearing this, Yunjioga thought of the golden core girl she saw in Zhou Xian's forbidden area. Could she be Nan Gongli's aunt? Is my aunt still alive? Nan Gongli's cold face revealed a nervous expression. Subordinate can't be sure. Siyue shook her head hesitantly, then said, but I heard that Zhou Xian has been looking for a treasure map to a mystic realm these years. A mystic realm treasure map. A fierce look flashed across Nan Gongli's eyes as he said, back then my aunt discovered a secret realm, which is why she disappeared. From the looks of it, this treasure map should have something to do with Miss Yu, Siyue said. It would be great if we could capture Zhou Xian and interrogate him, Nan Gongli said while gritting his teeth. Young master, Zhou Xian has been concentrating on refining Yin corpses for the past few years. Although his cultivation has not completely recovered, he has refined quite a few ape corpse soldiers. I'm afraid it won't be easy to deal with them. Siyue quickly advised. That's right, young master. We've already endured for so many years. There's no need to be impatient. Jin Chuan also advised. I understand. You guys continue to investigate, especially regarding the matter regarding the treasure map. You must investigate it thoroughly. Nan Gongli quickly regained his stern appearance. I heard that the treasure map was divided into several parts. Now one of them is in the Fiend Corp's secret territory. According to Zhou Xian, he wants to get that treasure map at all costs. Siyue had heard this from Jin Yanwei. Fiend Corp's secret territory? Nan Gongli seemed to have thought of something. A cold light flashed in his eyes as he instructed Jin Chuan and Siyue. Since Zhou Xian wants it, you guys help him. Once you've collected all the treasure maps, inform me. Yes. Jin Chuan and Siyue nodded at the same time and left the broken temple. Nan Gongli stood in the same place for a while before taking out a black pill from his storage bag and putting it in his mouth. Then his body trembled and his height actually increased by 4 inches. The muscles on his face moved again and again, finally turning into the appearance of Wanli Mingxian. But Yunjioga looked at Nan Gongli's transformation and was completely stunned. He was even more shocked than when he found out that Jin Chuan and Siyue were spies from the Purple Cloud sect. She had interacted with Nan Gongli before and knew that he was a very quiet and introverted person. Compared to the carefree Wanli Mingxian, it was the complete opposite of him. A person could play 2 roles and do it so naturally. What kind of acting skills did he have? Just as she was thinking about this, she saw that after Nan Gongli finished changing his face, he turned his head and grinned. Then he walked out in a carefree manner. Although there was no one around, he maintained the appearance of Wanli Mingxian very naturally and did not feel out of place at all. This person's soul is very strange. Zishang whispered into Yunjioga's ear. There are 2 people in his body. Could Wanli Mingxian have been possessed by Nan Gongli? Yunjioga asked hurriedly. It's not possession. The auras of these 2 souls are exactly the same. They're a bit like twins, but they're not. Zishang did not know how to describe this situation. Yunjioga thought about it and could only explain it with a split personality. However, as the young master of the Purple Cloud sect and the 10,000 Treasure Tower, Nan Gongli was able to become an inner sect disciple of the Black Fiend sect. She did not know how he operated to allow a spiritualist and an evil cultivator to coexist. Yun Jioga's situation looked very similar to Nangong Li's, but if her dantian had not been destroyed and her cultivation had disappeared, she would not have been able to start cultivating in the Yin Corpse sect's outer sect. After all, Elder Mo Hua and Elder Baigu were not blind. However, this had nothing to do with Yun Jioga. She was more concerned about the Fiend Corpse Secret Realms treasure map. This was very likely to be the last piece, so she had to get it. Nangong Li wanted to save her aunt and she wanted the treasure map. The two of them could work together to deal with Cho Senator. However, it was definitely impossible to speak rashly, so she had to test him first. The next morning, Yun Jioga sent a communication talisman to Wanli Mingxian and said that she was in the Zhuozhou. Wanli Mingxian immediately replied, "Where are you? I'll go find you." "No need, I'll go to the 10,000 treasure tower to find you. I heard that you got a black card for the Lu sisters. You can't drag me down, right?" Yun Jioga replied in a joking tone. "No problem, I'll wait for junior brother Yun Jio's arrival at any time." Wanli Mingxian could not wait to arrange a time to meet with Yun Jioga. Yun Jioga went to the 10,000 treasure tower, and the shopkeeper immediately welcomed her into the tea room when he saw her. "Junior brother Yunjio, I've been waiting for you at the teleportation formation for a long time. I was afraid that something would happen to you." Wanli Mingxian poured a cup of tea for her. "I'm fine, it's just that the teleportation location is a bit far from you guys." Yun Jioga used the perfunctory method that she used to brush off the Lu sisters. "You don't know, but the Zhongzhou is in a mess now. I heard that the demonic tripod in the ruins was stolen by two male cultivators. Old Lady Shi and Old Devil Wan are furious and are looking for them everywhere." Wanli Mingxuan's eyes had a trace of probing in them. After all, Yun Jioga came out last, so she might know something. "Do you know who those two male cultivators are?" Yun Jioga's eyes lit up and she pretended to be interested. Chapter 390. The news hasn't been released yet. Actually, Wanli Mingxian had already received some information. It was said that one of them was a demonic old monster. However, such precious information was obtained at a great cost by the brothel. He couldn't just give it to someone else for free, even if it was his savior. This was the rule. What a pity. Yun Jioga looked pained for not being able to get the demonic tripod. "Junior brother Yunjio, if you really want to know, I can help you ask around." Wanli Mingxian saw that she didn't look fake and was willing to leak some information for her. However, the price was necessary. "No need, I'm not in the mood for that right now." Yun Jioga put down the teacup and looked straight at Wanli Mingxian. "Actually, I came this time to ask if senior brother Wanli has heard of the Fiend Corpse Mystic Realm. The Fiend Corpse Mystic Realm only opens once every 100 years. Every evil sect will send elite disciples to kill fiend corpses and collect fiend beads. However, you're only at Qi refinement level 8. It's not your turn to go." Wanli Mingxuan's expression was calm. "Logically, I shouldn't go, but Ink Flower and Elder White Bones specifically asked me to go." Yun Jioga grimaced. "They're clearly trying to mess with you." Wanli Mingxian had a sympathetic expression. Although Yun Jioga had the 1,000-year zombie to protect her, being targeted by the elders of the sect wasn't going to be easy. "Yes, that's why I came to ask for information." "Have you entered the Fiend Corpse Mystic Realm?" Yun Jioga asked. "I haven't either, but I heard from the seniors that the fiend corpses inside are very difficult to deal with. We have to form teams to be safe. You have to be careful." The corpse sect elder was clearly trying to mess with Yun Jioga. The team he sent would definitely be disadvantageous to her. "If I enter the Mystic Realm, can we meet?" Yun Jioga wanted to find help. "The Mystic Realm is very big. That's hard to say. If we can meet, I'll definitely protect you," Wanli Mingxian said seriously. He was able to leave the Mystic Realm thanks to Yun Jioga's help. He naturally had to help if he could. Besides, their Black Fiend sect focused on refining fiends. No matter how good Yun Jioga's 1,000-year living corpse was, it had nothing to do with them. If there was no conflict of interest, there would be no danger. They just needed to kill the fiend corpse. "In that case, I will thank senior brother Wanli in advance. When will you be returning to Een Spirit Mountain Range? How about we travel together?" Yun Jioga invited. "I still have things to do here. If junior apprentice brother Yunjio is in a hurry to go back, then leave first." Wanli Mingxian shook his head. As the myriad treasure tower's young lord, he still had to walk around more. All right. By the way, I snuck out under the guise of going into seclusion. Senior brother Wanli, don't slip up, Yunjioga reminded. Don't worry. I will definitely not tell anyone. Wanli Mingxian nodded. Are we returning to Corpse Yin sect now? Zishang asked Yunjioga. The sooner I return, the sooner I can get rid of the poison and improve my cultivation. Yunjioga was determined to obtain the last treasure map in the Fiend Corp's secret zone. Furthermore, she had been out for a period of time and was worried that something would go wrong with the Yin Corp's sect. All right. Zishang supported Yunjioga's decision unconditionally. Central State Sure family. Old woman sat on the main seat with Yusha by her side. Together they looked at a middle-aged scholar who was tied up tightly. Old woman, I really haven't seen the demonic cauldron in the ruins. I've been trapped in the maze. If the ruins didn't suddenly collapse, I wouldn't even have been able to leave. The wicked old monster's body was covered in wounds and blood. He was on the verge of death. At that moment he was filled with regret. When he heard that the Lu sisters came to the Central State, he hurriedly followed them. He did not expect that he would not be able to capture them and almost encounter such an unfortunate incident. Grandmother, this person is not honest. Let's use the soul-searching technique. Yusha stood beside the old woman and said softly. All right. The old woman did not have the patience to listen to the wicked old monster's useless words. Just as she was about to reach out and pull out the wicked old monster's soul, Yusha pulled her sleeve and said to the old woman, Grandmother, I've recently gained some insight into the fiend's skill. Why don't I give it a try? Sure, I'll let you try it, the old woman said happily. Although her granddaughter's cultivation base was one level lower than the wicked old monster's, she was there to protect her. It would be fine to let her try it out. Yusha walked towards the wicked old monster slowly. Her pink dress was like a lotus swaying in the water. There was a faint smile on her beautiful and exquisite face. The wicked old monster used to love torturing beautiful young ladies like this. But now he felt terrified from the bottom of his heart when he saw Yusha. He begged for mercy. Old woman, I really didn't take the demonic cauldron. If you don't believe me, you can swear on your heart, demon. I'm willing to sign a master-servant contract with you as long as you don't. The wicked old monster's eyes bulged and the rest of his words were stuck in his throat. Yusha stood not far away from the wicked old monster. Her fair, jade-like palm exuded a black fiendish aura. There was a black halo floating above it, and the wicked old monster's soul was struggling desperately inside the halo. Good child, it seems like you've improved a lot after entering the ruins. The old woman was pleasantly surprised. Telekinesis required extremely precise control. Even she couldn't control it easily. Yusha didn't reply to her grandmother. Instead, she pinched the wicked old monster's soul and searched for the information she wanted. In the end, she really did see the scene of Yunjioga appearing. How did a goddess turn into a man? Yusha slowly opened her eyes and revealed a smile. Coincidentally, her body was a woman's. It was a perfect match. How was it? Any news about the demonic cauldron? The old woman asked. No, he's been trapped in the maze. Yusha's fingers moved slightly and erased the scene of Yunjioga. Then she passed the soul to the old woman. Humph, I knew that person was pretending. After searching the wicked old monster's soul, the old woman stuffed it into her dragon head walking stick. Grandmother's right. No criminal would use their true appearance to rob someone. Plus, this wicked old monster doesn't have the ability to do so. Yusha followed the old woman's words. Naturally, she knew that the demonic cauldron had left with its master. Whatever, let's put the demonic cauldron aside first. The most important thing for you right now is to focus on the Fiend Corp's secret area. Our Sure family only got 2 tokens this time. After you go in, find a safe place to kill more Fiend corpses. If you can get enough Fiend beads, you'll be able to enter the middle stage of the Foundation Establishment realm. The old woman didn't notice her granddaughter's change and started talking about the benefits of entering the Fiend Corp's secret area. The Fiend Corp's secret realm only opened once every 50 years. It was extremely difficult to get a few entry tokens from the major demonic sects, but the benefits were great, especially for a clan like the Sure family that cultivated in fiendish chi. Back then she had successfully formed her core after coming out of the Fiend Corp's secret area. No matter how important the ruins and the demonic cauldron were, It wasn't as important as the Fiend Corpse secret area. Grandmother, don't worry. I will do my best. Wuxia had a charming smile. Goddess, let's meet again in the Fiend Corpse secret area. Chapter 391. Yun Jioge and Zishang quietly returned to the corpse sect and found that the defensive array outside had been activated. Needless to say, Ink Flower and Elder Whitebone hadn't given up and wanted to disturb them. My defensive array isn't something they can break. Zishang was very confident in the defensive array he'd personally set up. If he wasn't afraid of attracting attention, he could have done better. That's good, Yun Jioge answered without looking up and started processing the dark serene grass. She had to quickly make the antidote to increase her cultivation so she could get the last treasure map in the Fiend Corpse secret realm. Give me the soul-shocking grass. Zishang saw that Yun Jioge was so busy and was ready to help. Yun Jioge flipped her right hand and took out the small flower pot. Lu Tianer's soul-shocking grass had been grown in the demonic cauldron for a while with spirit stones. It was already 100 years old. The figure that appeared from the seed not only had a complete body, but its facial features were also clear. Its hands were placed by its cheeks. Its eyes were empty and its cheeks were sunken in. Its mouth was wide open as if it was screaming. Drip a drop of blood and you can take out the soul seed. Zishang poked a small hole with complicated patterns on the seed's skin and let Yun Jioge drip blood on it. This way it would be very loyal and obedient after being taken out. Yun Jioge was already very familiar with the dripping blood ceremony. The golden red blood dripped into the soul-shocking grass seed. The eyes of the frightened little person opened wider and wider. Its body shook violently as if it was scared to death. Its soul suddenly left the seed and floated into Yun Jioge's hand, turning into a ball of light. It's so cowardly. Can it really raise a Yin corpse? Yun Jioge frowned. She didn't want to raise a Yin corpse that screamed at the slightest provocation. Which eye of yours sees that it's cowardly? Zishang poked the little ball of light, and a small person appeared inside, hugging his feet and curling up into a ball. His expression was serene as if he had fallen asleep. Huh. Yun Jioge's eyes widened. She still remembered how this ball of light looked like it was scared to death. The soul shock grass collects soul power of fear, which is why it shows a terrified expression. Now that it has left its body, it's something else. Plant it in the demonic tripod and put more spirit stones in it. When it germinates and bears fruit, we can cultivate a grass corpse, Zishang explained. Okay. Yun Jioge was also full of anticipation for the magical seed. He immediately put it into the demonic tripod. The little baby was wandering around in boredom. Now it only planted some spirit herbs every day, which was simply overkill. It was so bored that it was about to go moldy. This time when he saw the ball of light that Yun Jioge sent in, he immediately became excited as if he had seen something good. Is this a demonic soul seed? What is a demonic soul seed? Yun Jioge asked curiously. It's a demonic seed condensed from the demonic aura of heaven and earth. The little cute baby looked around the ball of light twice and immediately pursed his lips in disappointment. Okay, so it's a grass soul seed. Who cares what kind of seed it is? If it doesn't grow well, just wait and see how I'll deal with you. Yun Jioge glared at him fiercely. This adorable little baby was always ruining the roof if he wasn't beaten for a day. If you spoke to it nicely, it would immediately take a mile after taking an inch. You had to be ruthless in order to deal with it. Don't worry, master. I'll definitely help you plant it. The little baby just wanted to break open the grass soul seed and play with it. Hearing his master's unfriendly tone, he quickly puffed out his chest and promised. That's more like it. Work hard and I'll make you something delicious when we get back. Yun Jioge began to give out dates. This guy was a glutton. He didn't know if it was because he had been refined into a demonic artifact, but he shouted every day that he wanted to eat souls. Zishang indicated that he could let the little baby eat some souls. After all, he had been sealed for 5,000 years and the consumption was too great. It would be too slow for him to recover slowly. It was fine to use some demonic cultivation methods. Although Zishang agreed to let him eat, Yun Jioge was in seclusion and had no place to get it. He couldn't let the Yin Corpse sect disciple feed him, right? He could only wait for the Fiend Corpse mystic realm to open and get some souls for the little baby. The little baby immediately became high-spirited after getting the sweet dates from Yun Jioge. He had to get the grass soul seed out. After Yoga settled the little baby, she took out the small bronze cauldron and prepared to refine the antidote. The demonic cauldron that the little baby was in was too strong. Yoga couldn't use it at all with her cultivation. As long as she separated the small bronze cauldron from the demonic cauldron and used it, the power would be about 1,000th of the main body. Yoga put the soul-shocking grass seed and the 100-year dark serene grass into the small bronze cauldron. Then she summoned the white bone fire and started refining. 2 hours later, the small bronze cauldron spewed out hot air. The antidote for the second stage of the 9-bone shatter was finally refined. Yoga opened the small cauldron and saw a hazy golden light inside. It had to be consumed on the spot. Yoga stuffed the light into her mouth and sat cross-legged to absorb it. Xianxia stayed by Yoga's side to protect her, paying full attention to her condition. The light entered Yoga's mouth and began to circulate in her body along with her spiritual power. First it was very smooth. The toxins that went deep into the bone marrow were forced out. They followed the light to Yoga's dantian and directly entered the base. Suddenly, with a boom, a sharp pain exploded in Yoga's abdomen. Yoga screamed in pain and fell to the ground, clutching her abdomen. Her face was as pale as a corpse. Yoga. Xianxia's handsome face changed. He hurriedly lifted her clothes to take a closer look. He saw that Yoga's abdomen was heaving up and down. The 8 poisonous lights and the golden light were clashing, using her dantian as a battlefield. The fiercest one was a scarlet poisonous light. 9-bone shatter was broken and reconstructed. Pain was inevitable. It hurts. Yoga moaned in pain. Cold sweat drenched her entire back. Even breathing was difficult. She wished she could kill herself. Xianxia's heart twitched. He gently caressed Yoga's head and comforted her softly. Don't be afraid. It won't hurt very long. With that said, he took off their clothes and hugged her from behind. Yoga felt the familiar swelling pain. She could not help but roar in her heart. What the hell was this? Dual cultivation. Xianxia's heart was as calm as still water. He hugged Yoga and silently chanted a cultivation method. A purple demonic energy entered Yoga's body. The scarlet poisonous light that was fighting with the golden light in her dantian was like a shark that smelled blood when it smelled the demonic energy. It rushed out of the battlefield and chased after Xianxia's demonic energy into his body. The detoxifying golden light also rushed out. Without any opponents, the other 7 kinds of poisonous lights also gradually stopped. Yoga did not know that Xianxia had drawn the poison away. When she realized that her dantian had calmed down, she sped up the circulation of her spiritual power to expel the poison. Xianxia allowed the golden and scarlet lights to wreak havoc in her body. Instead, he continued to pour spiritual power into Yoga's body to help her circulate the qi circulation to expel the poison. Chapter 392. Cold sweat seeped from Xianxia's forehead due to the pain, but he didn't care at all. His pale purple eyes stared at Yoga with concern. Yoga focused all her attention on expelling the poison. After 3 cycles, she finally expelled all the poison from the second stage of the 9 shattered bones. I've advanced again. Yoga opened her eyes to find that she had advanced to the 9th stage of qi refinement. Then consolidate it a little more. Xianxia responded calmly and began to put on his clothes. His movements were steady and there was nothing strange. Okay. Yoga also felt that the spiritual power that had just advanced was a little chaotic, so she closed her eyes to meditate again to consolidate her cultivation. Xianxia took the opportunity to focus on eliminating the red poison light in his body. Because he was afraid that Yoga would find out, he was completely hurting himself. His violent actions worsened his internal injuries. When Yoga opened her eyes again, Xianxia had already eliminated the red poison light. Yoga was so happy that she wrapped her arms around Xianxia's neck and kissed him hard on the lips as a reward. Xianxia smiled and kissed her back. As long as Yoga was fine, nothing else mattered. After Yoga's excitement, she remembered that Xianxia had suddenly dual cultivated with her. Xianxia was a very reliable demon. If detoxification required dual cultivation, he would have done it in advance. He definitely wouldn't have waited for her to be in so much pain. There had to be a reason. Helping me detoxify won't hurt you, right? Yunjioge looked Zishang up and down. Do I look like I'm injured? Zishang raised his long eyebrows, a devilish smile on his handsome face. He was still as cool and domineering as before, so no one could tell that he was actually injured. Then why did you suddenly dual cultivate with me? Yunjioge still didn't believe it. The 9 shattered bones is about breaking and building. You have to experience extreme pain to train your divine sense. But I don't think you can take it, so I can only use spiritual power to help you get through it. But your divine sense training will be a little weaker in the future. Zishang said half-truthfully. Without going through that kind of pain, her divine sense would naturally be a little weaker. He wasn't lying about that. As for guiding the poison into her body, it would devour her cultivation and damage her meridians. There was no need to tell her. So be it. Yunjioge couldn't help but shudder when she thought of that pain. She absolutely did not want to experience that a second time. I'll help you with dual cultivation next time. Now that you have the demonic tripod, you can slowly train your divine consciousness. Zishang's peerlessly handsome face was suffused with a gentle light as he looked at Yunjioge with a doting and gentle gaze. Every time he detoxified the 9 bone shatter, he felt like he had died once. Moreover, the more he detoxified, the more tragic it became. If it was anyone else, Zishang would definitely treat them coldly. After all, if one wanted to reap benefits, then they had to suffer. But if it was Yunjioge, he couldn't bear to do it. He had experienced it before and he didn't want Yunjioge to experience it again. All right. Yunjioge was naturally happy that he did not have to suffer anymore. However, she was still a little worried that Zishang would be affected. This 9-layer bone shatter poison was definitely no joke. Give me your hand. Yunjioge wanted to check Zishang's pulse to see if he was really not affected as he said. I'm really fine. If you have the time, why don't you quickly find out who went to the Fiend Corp's secret realm? You don't have to worry about your safety with me by your side, but it's rare to enter a secret realm like this. You have to train well. Also, Ciyue should have some clues about the treasure map. You have to hold on to that. After all, you saved her life before. Also, you can start preparing the ingredients for the 3rd antidote. Zishang slowly analyzed all sorts of problems with Yunjioge. Yunjioge nodded as she listened. She had already gotten rid of the 2nd poison. It would not be a problem for her to reach perfected chi refinement in 3 months. Other than investigating the Fiend Corp's secret realm and the treasure map, she also had to start cultivating the antidote for the 3rd poison. The other ingredients were fine, but there was a spirit herb called Bloody Fiend Bead. It was said that it only grew in places with heavy fiendish energy. He had to look for it properly in the Fiend Corp's secret realm. There were too many things to do. Yunjioge became distracted as she thought about it. She immediately forgot to check Zishang's pulse. This had to do with Zishang's disguise. He had plenty of ways to not let Yunjioge know. The more Yunjioge thought about it, the more restless she became. She immediately went to find Little Fatty. Senior Apprentice Brother Yunjio, you advanced again. Little Fatty looked at the newly minted Chi Refinement Level 9 Yunjioge with his eyes wide open. He had only been in closed-door cultivation for a few months. He had advanced 3 levels like a flying goose. He was simply the most amazing of all. Isn't this normal? Yunjioge knew that there were all sorts of rumors about her being raped by the Fiend Corp's sect. She had long given up on covering it up. Little Fatty also thought of this. He coughed awkwardly and changed the topic. Senior Apprentice Brother Yunjio, the candidates for our corpse sect to enter the Fiend Corp's secret realm have been decided. Ever since he knew that Yunjioge was going to the Fiend Corp's secret realm, Little Fatty had been collecting all sorts of relevant information. Although he couldn't get any core secrets, it wasn't hard to find out who the participants were. Because the sect leaders' peak had very few people, they appointed Yi Jioge and Jin Chuan as the representatives. The other peaks were decided through a competition. Ink Flower Peak's victors were Bai Lan and a Foundation Establishment Middle Stage Senior Apprentice brother called Mo Jinyuan. White Bone Peak's victors were Wolf Fong and a Foundation Establishment Early Stage Senior Apprentice sister called Yu Zian. Chou-Ren Peak's victors were Jin Yanwei and Si Yue. They were a couple. Yunjioge raised her eyebrows. There were 4 familiar faces among the 6. On the surface, she had offended the 3 elders, Ink Flower, White Bone and Cho Senator. Everyone thought that their disciples would definitely target her. But in reality, other than Bai Lan and Mo Jinyuan and Yu Zian, the other disciples weren't a big problem. First of all, Siyue, Jin Yanwei and Jin Chuan were busy looking for the treasure map. They definitely wouldn't be in the mood to find trouble with her. Secondly, Wolf Fong had a small friendship with her. If she privately roped him in and gave him some benefits, he would probably turn a blind eye. Yunjioga thought about it and calmed down. She thought of another question. Little fatty, do you know anyone from the other evil sects and demonic sects? Can you help me find out who's going to enter the Fiend Corp's secret realm? She didn't know what the situation inside the Fiend Corp's secret realm was like. It was always good to find out more information. I do know, but I'm not very familiar with them. But as long as I have spirit stones, it's still very easy to find out. Little Fatty reckoned that the other sects should be the same as them. They were determined through a competition, so it shouldn't be hard to find out. I'll give you 100 spirit stones. Go ahead and find out. The more detailed, the better. Especially the Black Fiend sect's name list. It's best if you can find out where the masters came from and what magic tools they're proficient in. Yunjioga mainly wanted to know about Yirui. This girl had been in the Black Fiend sect for a period of time. With the help of the demonic sect's supreme expert, her cultivation shouldn't be too bad. And Nangong Li, if he wanted to find the treasure map, he had to pay more attention to him. Chapter 393. Senior brother Yunjio, don't worry, leave this to me. Little Fatty was very excited. These people were all his connections and his network would be even bigger in the future. After Yunjioga and Little Fatty parted ways, she returned to the cave abode and started to prepare things to win over Wolf Fong. Wolf Fong was now in Foundation establishment and the Een Meridian Protection Pill was suitable for him. She still had a lot on hand and it would be good to give them as gifts. If you give him pills for free, he probably won't dare to take them. Why don't you sell him some good defensive Dharma artifacts? He'll need them in the Fiend Corp's mystic realm. Zishang thought more carefully than Yunjioga. If Elder White Bones really ordered Wolf Fong to do something, Yunjioga's gifts would be useless. She might as well do some business at a low price. She wouldn't lose out and it would be easier to build a relationship. You're right. Yunjioga thought about it and agreed. If Wolf Fong misunderstood and wanted him to deal with Elder White Bones, it would be troublesome. However, she could prepare for two things when giving gifts. He wouldn't accept the Dharma artifacts after giving pills first. She had collected a lot of things on her way to Central Continent. Now was the time to sort them out. After Yunjioga sorted them out, she had a total of 10,000 spirit stones, talismans and pills. There were 12 types of defensive artifacts, all of which were common goods that could be used in the workshop. There were 8 offensive Dharma artifacts. The 3 most valuable ones were obtained from mid-stage Foundation establishment cultivators. There was a small black iron hook, a green ghost ruler and the fat old man's bamboo cane. Although the iron hook and the green ghost ruler were rare high-level Dharma artifacts, Yunjioga couldn't sell them for fear that someone would find out about her. However, when the fat old man took out the bamboo cane, treasure-seeking scorpion crawled out of Yunjioga's new high-level spirit beast bag. Master, there's a treasure. Treasure-seeking scorpion didn't perform well at the ruins. Recently it wanted to perform well. Now that it smelled the spiritual light, it immediately crawled out. Which one is the treasure? Yunjioga immediately took out all the treasures in the storage bag. Treasure-seeking scorpion circled around it twice and finally stopped beside the bamboo cane. It said hesitantly, "This thing has a very powerful spiritual light." It was preparing to advance recently and its spiritual sense was stronger than before. That was why it could faintly sense the spiritual light from the bamboo cane, but it didn't know what treasure it was. Spiritual light? Yunjioga carefully looked at the bamboo staff. It was only 3 feet long and had a dark green surface. There was nothing special about it. It wasn't even as eye-catching as the 3 leaves that served as weapons. Zishang picked up the bamboo and looked at it carefully. He said, "This bamboo seems to be alive. Try using your wood spirit power." With that he handed it to Yunjioga. "Let me see." Although Yunjioga could devour wood spirits, he rarely used them, so he didn't discover the secret of the bamboo at first. When she tried to infuse wood spirit energy into the bamboo to check, she immediately discovered that this bamboo was not bamboo at all, but the root of some kind of plant. It contained a strong vitality like a vast ocean. Just a short section of the rhizome was already so powerful. If it was a complete tree, how powerful would it be? Yunjioga immediately decided to use the demonic tripod to grow this thing. At this time, the demonic tripod had changed a lot after all this time. The originally empty herb garden was now neatly planted with rows of spirit herbs. There were purple monkey flowers and red rock grass that Xianxia needed for the third stage of detoxification. There were also many herbs for the meridian protection pill. Other than the herb garden, there were also rows of red fruit trees outside. They were filled with pink spirit peaches that were ready to ripen. These peaches were not only full of spirit energy but could also nourish meridians. Most importantly, they were good for spirit beasts' advancement. Xianxia had planted them for the treasure-seeking scorpion couple. Next to the stream was a top-grade herb garden with the densest spirit energy. Now only the grass soul seed was planted. This kind of rare thing consumed a lot of spirit energy and usually had to be planted separately. The little baby was attentively serving the grass soul seed by the stream. He had moved most of the spirit energy from the demonic tripod here so that the grass soul seed could germinate and bear fruit faster. He could have a few top-grade souls to taste. Back then Wuxia had let him eat freely. Those days had been so beautiful. When the little baby thought of this, he couldn't help but touch the little black horn on his head. Without the support of souls, his horn had become smaller and wasn't pretty anymore. How could he find a partner in the future? He didn't want to be a lover like Wuxia. He wanted to be a wife like Lord Zhou. Just as the little baby was sighing, Xianxia's divine sense came in with the bamboo. He asked the little baby, "Do you know what this is?" Here's the chance to perform." The little baby was shocked. He quickly took the bamboo and looked at it carefully. Then he looked at it again and again. Then he sadly realized that he didn't recognize it at all. "Master, I've been sealed for 5,000 years. In order to find you, I wasted a lot of divine sense. I don't remember many things." The little baby touched the little black horn on his head. He felt wronged. "It's fine if you don't remember. Just tell me if you can plant it." Xianxia didn't have high expectations for the little baby, so he wasn't disappointed. "I can plant it, but this root system is a bit strange. I'm afraid it will cost a lot of spiritual power to plant it." Planting things was the little baby's instinct. Even if he couldn't recognize it, he could still plant it. How much spiritual power will it cost? Xianxia thought that if it wasn't much, he would plant it first to see what it was. If it was something good, he would be rich. "If I use spirit stones, it will cost at least 500 high-grade spirit stones." The little baby roughly estimated. "What?" Xianxia was stunned. One high-grade spirit stone was equivalent to 100,000 low-grade spirit stones. 1,000 high-grade spirit stones was equivalent to 5 million. The 10,000 low-grade spirit stones in her hands couldn't even be counted as a living thing. How could she raise it? "Plant it first. Just make sure it can survive." Xianxia decisively gave up. 5 million spirit stones. Even if she sold herself, she wouldn't be able to get this number. However, even if she couldn't earn it now, it didn't mean that she would keep it as a memento. "Actually, if you don't use spirit stones, there's another way." The little baby blinked his big eyes. His small round face looked like he was thinking for Xianxia. "What way?" Xianxia's eyes lit up and he quickly asked. "If you use souls to raise it, you only need 10,000 souls." The little baby was very naive and innocent as he raised a tender little finger. He indicated that this method was much easier than getting high-grade spirit stones. There were people everywhere in the Immerse Mountains. It was a piece of cake to kill thousands of people. When the time came, he would secretly get some to satisfy his craving. Presumably, his master wouldn't find out. 10,000 souls. Xianxia chuckled at the little baby and then scolded fiercely. "Why don't you go to heaven? If you like eating souls so much, go back to your Wuxia. I can't afford to support a demon like you." Every day he provoked her to kill people to find souls. Did he really want to force her to become a female demon who killed people without blinking? Chapter 394. "Sob, I was just giving you an idea. It's fine if you don't accept it, but why are you being mean to me?" The cute baby pouted and started crying. "What are you crying for? Hurry up and plant it for me. If it doesn't survive, I'll teach you a lesson." Xianxia had already seen through this guy's evil face and wasn't fooled at all. Right away, right away." The cute baby immediately stopped crying and didn't dare to cause any more trouble. After receiving the bamboo, he eagerly chose a spot far away from the grass soul seed and planted it. Then he made a hand seal to draw water from the stream to water it. Yun Jioga saw that the cute baby was obedient and left the demonic tripod tiredly. What's wrong? Did that cute baby make you angry again? Zhishang noticed Yun Jioga's bad expression and asked gently. Do you think I was a bad, vicious, and overbearing demoness in my previous life? Yun Jioga asked sullenly. Although she didn't think she was a good person, she didn't expect herself to be so bad in the past. Why do you ask? Zhishang raised his eyebrows. What had triggered this girl? Otherwise, why would I make such a demonic tripod that eats souls at every turn? 10,000 at once. The cute baby's matter-of-fact look proved that he really had eaten a lot in the past. Although the Yin Spirit Mountain was the base camp of the evil and demonic sects, the big sects all had their own cultivation methods. Whether it was Yin Qi, Evil Qi, Ghost Qi, Essence Qi or Soul Qi to cultivate, they all had their own authentic sources. No one would kill people to cultivate. If evil disciples killed people like flies, the ordinary people of the Yin Spirit Mountain would have died long ago. How could they recruit disciples to expand their sect? Those who relied on killing to cultivate were either small sects or scattered evil cultivators. Not to mention the righteous sects, even the evil sects and demonic sects would not hesitate to do the same to the evil sects, let alone the righteous sections. The cute baby is just greedy. I'll teach it slowly in the future, Zhishang said indifferently. To him it didn't matter how bad the cute baby was as long as it was useful to Yun Jioga. Yun Jioga realized that he had found the wrong person. Zhishang was also a bad person. He wouldn't care about the cute baby's gluttony. However, Zhishang was right. The little adorable baby was just a glutton. His demonic nature was not very strong. At least once he roared he would be well behaved. Actually, the soul was something that consumed the soul energy within it. She remembered that there was a type of pill that was used to nourish the soul. However, the materials needed for the soul-nourishing pill were relatively rare. She could only refine it after she successfully built her foundation, so she could put it aside for now. At present, the most important thing was the matter of the Fiend Corp's secret territory. Yun Jioga quickly composed himself. He packed up a bottle of Yin Meridian Protection Elixir and 2 decent defensive Dharma artifacts before preparing to find Wolf Fong. Some time ago, Wolf Fong had accepted a task that allowed him to cultivate and earn money without neglecting anything. Today was the day he was supposed to return to the sect to hand over the task. He did not expect to be stopped on the way. Senior brother Wolf Fong, long time no see. Yun Jioga greeted. Junior brother Yun Jioga, you're out of seclusion? Wolf Fong could not help but feel surprised when he saw Yun Jioga, who was already at the 9th stage of Qi Disciple. This junior brother's cultivation speed was really fast. Actually, at Yun Jioga's age, not to mention the 9th level of Qi Disciple, there were also many at the foundation establishment stage. However, those were all genius disciples that the sect spent all their efforts to nurture from a young age. People like Yun Jioga, who had no father, no mother, and directly entered the 9th level of Qi Disciple within 2 years, were extremely rare. However, when he thought of the 1,000-year living corpse beside Yun Jioga, Wolf Fong felt somewhat relieved. Those who had fortuitous encounters were obviously different. However, Wolf Fong did not want this kind of fortuitous encounter. If it was a lively and beautiful female living corpse, it was fine if he closed his eyes and pounced on her. However, being pressed down by a male living corpse was unbearable. This was also why, although Yun Jioga was eye-catching in the Yin Corpse sect, there were not many people who envied and hated him. Senior brother Wolf Fong, I have something to ask you. This time going to the Fiend Corp's secret territory, did Elder White Bones give you any instructions? Yun Jioga knew that Wolf Fong was a straightforward person and did not like to play games, so he asked directly. Yes. Master instructed me and Senior Sister Yu to cooperate with Senior Sister Bai Lan when the time comes. If there's a chance, we'll kill you. Wolf Fong also said it very directly. I wonder what Senior brother Wolf Fong thinks about this matter? Yun Jioga asked. I'm not free. Wolf Fong said without hesitation. He had always admired Yun Jioga's strategy and strength. Although he could not be on good terms with Yun Jioga because of Master, he did not want to deal with her. Senior brother Wolf Fong, let's not beat around the bush. I don't expect you to help me deal with Bai Lan, but I hope that you can go easy at the crucial moment and give me some information. This bottle of Yin Meridian Nourishing Pill was personally refined by me. Treat it as a thank you gift. Yun Jioga showed his sincerity. Wolf Fong's eyes instantly lit up. He heard that Ziyun Workshop recently produced a batch of extremely pure meridian nourishing pill. Unfortunately, the price was expensive and the quantity was limited. He had always felt regretful that he did not get it. However, when he thought of Yunjioga's request, he still rejected. Junior brother Yunjioga, although I don't want to deal with you, sometimes I have no choice. Wolf Fong did not want to put shackles on himself. If he could not do it, then he would not be a man on both sides. I was too impulsive. Yunjioga had already guessed that Wolf Fong would not accept it, so he immediately changed his plan and said, "This trip to the Fiend Corp's secret territory is filled with danger. I wonder how senior brother Wolf Fong's preparations are going? You should prepare a few good defensive immortal treasures. I heard that the killing intent inside is enough to kill people silently." When Wolf Fong heard this, he was depressed. He naturally knew that the evil qi in the evil corpse mystic realm was powerful. Without good defensive artifacts, he would be at a disadvantage. His set of demonic bone spikes was good for attacking, but its defensive ability was far inferior. Moreover, the better defensive artifacts were all extremely expensive. He had bought quite a lot of things previously and was short on money. Thus he wanted to do missions to earn spirit stones. But before he could save up enough spirit stones, all the defensive magic tools that he fancied were bought away. He was feeling depressed in his heart. Yunjioga could see Wolf Fong's depression at one glance. He said, "I have a few good defensive artifacts here. If senior brother Wolf Fong likes them, name a price and take them." With that, he took out the two artifacts that he had prepared. One of them was a rank 4 Vajra talisman. When used on the body, it could withstand 3 full attacks from a middle-stage foundation establishment cultivator. The other was a small gray flag. On it was a light green sword talisman that looked like a flood dragon. Not only could it shoot out flying sword attacks, it also had the aura of a flood dragon to protect the body. Could both attack and defend. It was a good item. Wolf Fong could not take his eyes off it. In the depths of his eyes, there was only the word want. In another 4 months, the evil corpse mystic realm would open. In such a short time, even if he went into closed-door cultivation, he would not be able to raise his cultivation by much. Thus, the meridian nourishing pill was not what he needed the most. However, he really liked the 2 items that Yunjioga took out. He really wanted them. Wolf Fong knew that if he really bought them, he would owe him a favor. However, he had spent spirit stones. It was better than asking for things for nothing. Thus Wolf Fong said decisively, "I will buy both of them. Junior brother Yunjioga, name a price." You're tuning in to the Zhou Xian's Legacy YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.